Praise the Most High God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and peace to everybody that's here in the name of Jesus. Peace to everybody that's listening on the phone line and also tuning in on the internet. I thought the choir was going to do another selection. They had some more music going. But you know, when you read the Bible, you find out the Bible lets us know that it is full of things that the Bible call milk for what I would say babes in the Word. But then on the other hand, the Bible speaks about us eating meat, which is for people that's been in the Word, obviously, sometime. So we try to balance that. Matter of fact, a lot of times we try to stick with a lot of baby stuff, but every now and then you got to grow up and eat some meat. So we're going to deal with a lesson that is clearly some meat. So if you a babe and don't quite get it, don't worry about it. Just keep eating the milk, and you will get accustomed to being able to eat some meat later on down the road. But that's what this is, and it shows you how time flies by, because I'm trying to see if we're going to get rid of this little echo. It just shows you how time flies by. I looked at the notes, and I haven't done this lesson in probably at least 2.5 years. So, and the reason why it got on my mind, we had the Bible class, the conference line this past Wednesday. For the first time, we just did it all on the telephone. So, and that went real well. We had a whole lot of people that chimed in. But somebody asked this question. I ain't going to call their name, but somebody asked this question about part of what this lesson is talking about. And it shows you how hard a topic this is just on that question alone. And I was trying to be as brief as possible. Somebody told me it probably took a good 40 minutes just on that question. And I mean, I didn't go to hardly no scriptures, but that shows you how detailed certain things in the Bible are. So that's what put it on my mind. So we're going to deal with this today, what's commonly called the 70 weeks of Daniel. We just going to title it, dealing with that, 70 weeks until Israel's restoration. 70 weeks until Israel's restoration. And the title should let you know something right off the bat, that's exactly what this whole chapter that we're going to start off reading, well, we're going to get to it in a minute, in Daniel the 9th chapter, because that's where it comes from, Daniel the 9th chapter. That's what it's all about. And if you just understand that simple aspect, then you won't be deceived, because you got a lot of so-called, you don't have just the average preacher trying to talk about this. The average preacher won't try to talk about this because, you know, he's not trying to teach nobody nothing. But you got some so-called biblical scholars and professors that suppose to really know the Bible. They will try to get into this. And most of them always mess up because they make something else out of it when they get down to the end of it. They come up, if you've ever heard of it being a 7-year tribulation, well, this is where they get it from Daniel 9, and it has nothing to do with that. It's not talking about tribulation at all in the whole chapter. The title of this lesson is letting us know what it's talking about. The 70 weeks of Daniel is talking about Israel's restoration. And we're going to read it and find out. But people miss that because, again, they don't know how important Israel is. A lot of these same professors or theologians, they've said that Israel has been done away with and Israel don't matter no more. So they're not really focusing on what it's really about. And that's why it's easy for them to get off track and come up with this so-called 7-year tribulation at the end of this chapter. But we're going to start off in Acts, the 1st chapter. We're going to start off in Acts, the 1st chapter. Because if you read the Bible at all, you find out you can't get away from Israel. A lot of deception has been taught to us, making us think that Israel has been done away with from the New Testament standpoint. We've heard that Jesus came and Israel don't matter no more. You know, he's just started the Christian religion. That's not the case. Jesus was nothing but an Israelite, and he came specifically to deal with Israelites. And everybody else from other nations is going to get saved through Israel, who Jesus came specifically to deal with. There's no other way around it. You cannot take Jesus and separate him from the Old Testament or Israel. That just don't fit when you really read the Bible. But if you just listen to a man tell you a few things, then you might go for that. But now we're going to start off in Acts, the 1st chapter, because this is the New Testament. This is where people try to act like they're coming up with a whole lot of brand new teaching that separates and gets us away from the importance of Israel. But we're going to see what the question was asked here in the beginning. And I guess we got to have that in the announcement where everybody cut their phone off. Acts 1. Let me make sure mine off. Acts 1. And we're going to pick it up at verse 6. But that's the title, The 70 Weeks Until Israel's Restoration. Acts 1 and verse 6. Go ahead.
When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel?
See, if Israel was unimportant or done away with, then the apostles they didn't understand that, did they? They didn't get that message at all, did they? And they had been with Jesus by this time 3.5 years, walking with him as he was doing his ministry. And that 3.5 years is going to play a part in this lesson. That's kind of common knowledge among people that do any research, that Jesus had a 3.5 year ministry. Well, Peter and the other apostles was right there with him for 3.5 years. This is after he had died and resurrected. So the first thing come out of their mouth is not what we done heard nowadays, that is the Lord is going to eventually take us to heaven. They didn't ask the Lord that, did they? They didn't say, will you therefore at this time take us up to glory with you? They knew that wasn't even on the table. They knew that wasn't even part of God's will. So what did they ask him? Read it again, verse 6.
When they therefore were come together, they asked of him, saying, Lord, wilt thou at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel?
See, they asked a valid question because they know God's will. They asked, will you at this time restore again the kingdom to Israel? So now this is the New Testament, and the apostles still knew, even after Jesus had died, that the kingdom had to be restored to Israel. So that's what they asked him. That's what the title is, 70 weeks until Israel's restoration. So what had happened, the Lord had already gave a prophecy in Daniel, giving you a timetable on when Israel would be restored. He had already gave a prophecy. That's part of the reason why Peter and them asked the question. They understood the scriptures. They knew what had to take place. But what did Jesus say? Let's see what his answer was. Verse 7.
And he said unto them, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power.
See, now, Jesus didn't tell them he wasn't going to do it. He didn't tell them, well, that's not important. What's important now is you coming up to glory. We all going to go to heaven together. He didn't tell them none of that, did he? He didn't give them an answer because he knew it wasn't going to happen in their time, because we approximately 2,000 years later, and the kingdom still haven't been restored, right? So that lets you know Jesus knew what he was talking about. It ain't even of concern to you. Basically, he letting them know, look, that's beyond your range. You only got a few more years to take care of your business on this earth. The question you asking, he could have told me if he wanted to, but he ain't no need him getting into it. The question you asking is way down the road. So he answered it. He said, it is not for you to know. He didn't say he wasn't going to do it, did he? Because he definitely going to do it. He said, it is not for you to know the times or the seasons which the Father hath put in his own power. The times or the seasons for what? For what the question was, right? Will you restore the kingdom to Israel? And their timetable was right then, right? At this time. He said, no, it's not for you to know the time that it's going to happen. Because he knew it was a long way off. But I'm just showing you right off the bat, from the New Testament standpoint, they knew God's will. It was concerning Israel being restored, right? So now let's go back and get into it. Jeremiah 25. Because that's what this lesson is about. That's what the 70 weeks is about. That's what Daniel 9 is all about. Jeremiah 25, and we're going to pick it up at verse 8. Jeremiah 25 and verse 8. Because the Lord got fed up with Israel and sent Israel into slavery. Sent them into captivity. But he'd been long time prophesying that eventually he was going to bring them back. And this prophecy in Daniel 9 is just another prophecy of how it's going to unfold, and gave you kind of a timetable. But he done told you the whole story. Israel sinned against God. Yeah, he cast Israel into bondage, but he made room to bring them back from day one. Jeremiah 25 and verse 8. Go ahead.
Therefore, thus saith the Lord of hosts, because ye have not heard my words, behold, I will send and take all the families of the north, saith the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant, and will bring them against this land, and against the inhabitants thereof, and against all these nations round about.
Go ahead.
And will utterly destroy them, and make them an astonishment, and a hissing, and perpetual desolation.
See, now, this goes to show you the Lord will use anybody to do anything when he get ready to. Because Israel had made God mad. He said, because you have not hearkened to my words, I will send and take all the families of the north, he said at verse 9, said the Lord, and Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, my servant. See, Nebuchadnezzar was going to serve God in this capacity. What capacity? Destroy God's own people and all other countries around. He was going to serve. See, the Lord would use anybody to say. Nebuchadnezzar really didn't know the God of Israel like that. Like Daniel knew him and Jeremiah knew him. He didn't know he wasn't his servant like that. He was serving him in another capacity. But he called him his servant, right? Satan is the Lord's servant. He didn't want to do God's will the right way, so he let him do some stuff that he need done in other capacities. So, but he called Nebuchadnezzar his servant. He said, I'm going to bring him against this land. That's the land of Israel. See, this is where the restoration became necessary. It had already been going downhill by now, because the 10 tribes by this time, what we read, was already in slavery. The only ones left was the 2 tribes, which is ruled over by Judah. Capital was Jerusalem. They was the only ones left. And now the Lord's saying, you getting ready to go. Since you don't want to listen, I'm bringing Nebuchadnezzar on y'all, and you are going into captivity. He said, I'm going to bring him against all these nations, and then he will utterly destroy them, make them an astonishment, a hissing, a perpetual desolations. So when this take place, it'll be need for some restoration, won't it? Go ahead, verse 10.
Moreover, I will take from them the voice of mirth and voice of gladness, the voice of the bridegroom and the voice of the bride, the sound of the millstones and the light of the candle. See, he said, I'm going to take all happiness away from you all because you don't want to obey me. Just like now, you might have some happy times, but it ain't like it could have been or used to be. Because he said, especially you don't have none in your own homeland. Israel don't know they got a homeland now as a whole. We know, but as a whole. He said, I'm going to take from you the voice of mirth and gladness and the bridegroom and the bride and the sound of the mills and the light of the candle. Verse 11. And this whole land shall be a desolation and an astonishment, and these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. Oh,
these nations shall serve the king of Babylon 70 years. See, this is where the 70 weeks come in at. Because the Lord talked about repeatedly 70 years, 70 years, 70 years.
Because that was just the initial onslaught that Nebuchadnezzar was going to do. So some people got in their mind that it was going to be totally complete after 70 years. No, that's just the initial bump upside your head. 70 years, right off the bat, bam. But it wasn't going to be over and complete or Israel restored completely after the 7 years. That's what some people didn't get. And we know Jeremiah was 500 some odd years before Jesus' time. So we know 70 years had elapsed by Jesus' time, right? And the apostles still was looking for some restoration, right? So it hadn't been restored yet, right? Okay, but this is where kind of the 70 weeks come from, because the Lord said, look, I'm going to show you how long range this really is. I'm going to give you to another way. So look, but he did say 70 years, verse 12.
And it shall come to pass, when 70 years are accomplished, that I will punish the king of Babylon.
See, this is not just, the Lord do talk about a literal 70 years, but also the Lord is talking about a prophetic 70 years. 70 weeks of years. And when that is up, when that timetable is up, then Israel would be restored. See, and that's what he's getting to here, because he says it shall come to pass when the 70 years are accomplished, that I will do what?
I will punish the king of Babylon and that nation, saith the Lord, for their iniquity and the land of the Chaldeans that will make it perpetual desolation.
But see, you look in Revelation, and the Lord still lets you know spiritually Babylon is still around. All the way in Revelation. You look at Revelation 17, he talks about mystery Babylon, because technically it's still around. And he's yet to punish the real king over them. So this lets you know it's more drawn out. Now let's go to Daniel 9, where it all unfolds at. Daniel 9. But it starts right there. That's why Daniel was seeking some answers. Daniel, the 9th chapter. And we're going to skip a lot just to save time, because we can't read all of the stuff. We read enough already. And if we read everything we came across, people have been fainted in here. And then the Lord had to allow me to do a miracle and feed you some bread or something, because we'd be here for days. We had to stretch some fish and some bread out if we just read everything. So we skip a little bit, and that's just to save time, but we're going to hit the high points. Daniel 9 and 1. Daniel 9 and 1, and just pay attention to what this chapter is about, so you couldn't get lost at the end if you do that. That's what these professors and so-called scholars do. They come up with a 7-year tribulation from one verse in here, not knowing that it's multiple verses, 5 or 6 verses that tell you tribulation is only 3.5 years. So they twist one verse up from here because they don't know they don't stay on track to what it's really about. Daniel 9 and 1. Go ahead.
In the first year of Darius, the son of Ahasuerus, of the seed of the Medes, which was made king over the realm of the Chaldeans.
See, now, he said he was going to destroy Babylon and the Chaldeans in Jeremiah 25. But yet, even when Babylon ended, the kingdom kept going because somebody else just took over. Who took over after that? These guys right here, the Medes, which was Russians. They took over after the physical kingdom of Babylon time was up. So that's what he's talking about now. He's talking about these Medes that's running things. He's in their days, but he's going to be seeking the Lord because he read some of the stuff we just read in Jeremiah. Daniel knew to read the Bible too. Go ahead, verse 2.
In the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, understood by books the number of the years, whereof the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet, that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolations of Jerusalem.
See, now Daniel was reading Jeremiah. See, if you're going to be a servant of God, you're going to do some reading. That's the only way you're going to know what God wants. So Daniel, one of the greatest prophets in the Bible, he said, I understood some stuff from reading the book of Jeremiah. Reading books, period. That's what he said. I understood by books. That's more than one, right? The number of years where the word of the Lord came to Jeremiah the prophet. We just got through reading that he would accomplish 70 years in the desolation. So he's talking about that 70 years, right? But see, the Lord had to let Daniel know it was more than a literal 70 years. This is what the Lord got to break down to Daniel. Because Daniel wondered where 70 years, because Daniel, keep in mind, he was a slave in captivity in Babylon. He was one of the ones that the Lord let Nebuchadnezzar take out. And so when the Lord gets fed up, he will destroy the righteous and the wicked. Because Daniel was a servant of God. But he still went into slavery, didn't he? So now, he understood about the 70 years, but he didn't understand the prophetic long-term message in it. Go ahead, but he started seeking the Lord. Go ahead, verse 3.
And I set my face unto the Lord God to seek by prayer and supplications with fasting and sackcloth and ashes.
See, he started seeking the Lord with prayer and fasting and sackcloth because he looking for some restoration. And it haven't happened yet, and he been in slavery a long time. But go ahead.
And I prayed unto the Lord my God, and made my confession, and said, O Lord, the great and dreadful God, keeping the covenant and mercy to them that love him, and to them that keep his commandments. Okay, so now he praising the Lord, and he praying to the Lord for some answers, but he giving the Lord his due. He said, Lord, you the great and dreadful God. See, he understood the dread of God, which people don't know now. They act like everybody else got control except God. But he understood. He called him the great and dreadful God. But he said, look, and I know you keep the covenant and mercy to them that love you and keep your commandments. So now he going to admit what? Verse 5. We have sinned and have committed iniquity and have done wickedly and have rebelled, even by departing from thy precepts and from thy judgment. Okay, so he admit, that's the first thing you need to admit to God, that you done done wrong. God ain't done nothing wrong. I don't care if he bust your head 50 times. You must have had it coming. Or he just testing you to see if you're going to keep walking with him. So either way, you don't have no choice but to still honor God. So he said, look, we have sinned, we have committed iniquity and done wickedly and rebelled, even by departing from your precepts and your judgment. Now he kept on praying, and you can read the prayer on your own, because it go all the way down to verse 19, so it's about 15 verses of prayer. But but we see what he is talking about. He's confessing his sin and the sin of his people for their current situation that they're going through, dealing with this captivity. And what kind of ignited it a little bit, he told us he was reading the book of Jeremiah, right? He was reading about Jeremiah and 70 years. But now skip down to verse 20, and we're going to see what happened at the end of this prayer. Go ahead, verse 20, go ahead. And while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel.
Okay, that's what he was doing. So we finished it now. Now he's telling us what happened as it was going on. He said, while I was speaking and praying and confessing my sin and the sin of my people Israel, what else?
And presenting my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God.
Okay, so now this is what this is about, right? This is what this chapter is about. Daniel is seeking some understanding and praying to the Lord concerning, he just told us, concerning not just his sin, but the sin of his people Israel. So this is about Israel and the land of Israel. That's why he said, present my supplication before the Lord my God for the holy mountain of my God, which particularly is the capital, Jerusalem. So this is what it's about, though. He's praying about his people and his homeland. He was in slavery in Babylon, but he still knows that it's important. His homeland is important, and he's looking for some restoration. Just like Peter and the apostles asked Jesus, will you restore the kingdom of Israel? You see how this is a theme through the Bible, and people don't know how important Israel is. We in Daniel 9, he praying about Israel. You can go to Acts 1, we read first. They asked, will Jesus, will you restore the kingdom of Israel now, right? How come people can't get the importance and significance of Israel that it ain't done away with? But anyway, something happened, though, while he was praying. 21.
Yeah, while I was speaking in prayer, even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly, touched me about the time of the evening oblation.
Okay, now while he was going through this prayer, he been seeking the Lord, he been fasting. This been going on. And he said while it was going on, the Lord sent the angel. He called him a man, but we know it's an angel, because angels can appear like men. And even Daniel knew it was an angel. But you can call him a man because they can appear like that. He said even the man Gabriel, whom I had seen in the vision at the beginning, being caused to fly swiftly. See, they ain't had no airplane, so there wasn't no way for this man to be flying, right? Unless he was something else. And he flew swiftly, right? He flew over to Daniel, bam, just like that, and touched Daniel. And Daniel knew what time of day it was. It was in the evening. Go ahead, 22.
And he informed me and talked with me and said, O Daniel, I am now come forth to give thee skill and understanding.
In other words, I come to answer your prayer. But now what was Daniel talking about, concerned with? He wasn't concerned with nothing about his people and his homeland, right? That's all it was about. And he got ignited by reading Jeremiah. See, Jeremiah stayed in the land of Israel. He didn't go into captivity when Nebuchadnezzar came. Because see, Jeremiah was already, the Lord had gave Jeremiah the prophecy telling him Nebuchadnezzar was going to come. He gave him the prophecy, and that made the Israelites mad, you know, the ones in charge, because you don't want nobody to tell you, you messing up and God finna send somebody to bust your head. Don't nobody really want to hear that, right? So that made the king and everybody mad. They was tried to kill Jeremiah, put him in a pit, did all kind of stuff to Jeremiah. The leaders did. But see, Nebuchadnezzar, the one who the Lord was sending, he heard about Jeremiah's prophecy too. He heard about it because everybody hear about what's going on. So he knew what Jeremiah had said. So he looked at it like Jeremiah was on his side, which Jeremiah wasn't. Jeremiah just telling him, hey, what the Lord said. So anyway, it's just like if I kept saying Russia gonna do something over here, Russia gonna do something over here, hey, and they come and do it and take over, and something like that happen, then Russia might, you know, treat me pretty good. Because I announced what they was gonna do. But that's the way it was when Nebuchadnezzar got to the land. He told Jeremiah, he had his boy tell Jeremiah, look, wherever Jeremiah want to go, he can go. If he want to come to me in Babylon and hang out, he can do that. He want to stay here. So he treated Jeremiah nice. And Jeremiah chose to stay in his homeland. See, Daniel didn't have that choice. They came and took Daniel as a slave. So he was gone. So, but we saw Daniel was reading some information about Jeremiah and 70 years, right? But now he's getting the answer. Gabriel came and started to give him some understanding of this situation. Go ahead. What verse you at?
Verse 23.
So now at verse 22, he said, look, he informed me and said, I come to give you skill and understanding. Now 23. Go ahead.
At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved, therefore understand the matter and consider the vision.
See, now he said, look, I've been sent to show you. I was sent at the beginning. But now I got here, I'm getting ready to show you, consider the vision. Now we get into the prophecy that came from Gabriel as an answer to Daniel's prayer about his what? His homeland and his people, period. Go ahead, 24.
70 weeks I determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression and to make an end of sin, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy.
Okay, so now, he gave him the answer in one verse, really. He told him 70 weeks I determined. Now, we know quite naturally this couldn't be a 70 literal weeks, because in 70 literal weeks, that would have been over in what? Less than a year, right? That would have been over, it would have been all over with. Because this verse is talking about the completion of the whole thing, the answer to Daniel's prayer when there was going to be some restoration. This verse is answering the apostles' question, will you restore the kingdom to Israel? Matter of fact, if this verse had been fulfilled in a literal 20 weeks, the apostles wouldn't have had to ask that question. Because that was 500 some years later, let alone 20 weeks, right? So this is what lets you know the Lord is doing something different. He's showing you something in a prophetic way. He's showing you some long range. And then it's even going to have to be suspended because of something. So, but we got 70 weeks. That's what he said here. He says 70 weeks are determined upon your people. In other words, this is the sentence, Daniel. Now, Daniel looking at 70 years, then he come backhanding with 70 weeks. And he understood it was more than literal weeks. He said, look, Daniel, this thing is long drawn out. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon your holy city to finish the transgression and to make an end of sins and to make reconciliation for iniquity and to bring in everlasting righteousness and to seal up the vision and prophecy and to anoint the most holy. He said, look, it's going to take 70 weeks and we'll be done with this. That's a whole lot to take place in 70 weeks. So it's just like Jesus. See, really, he put this out of Daniel's reach. He was letting Daniel know, don't even try to reach for this. Just like Peter, Jesus let Peter and them know, right? This ain't even for you to know the timetable. So he put this out of Daniel's reach, just like when Jesus told the apostles about being forgiven, right? He was telling them, you can read, I think, Luke 18. He was telling them about being forgiven to one another. Luke 17 or 18. About being forgiven and, you got to be merciful. So Peter said, okay, he tried to narrow it down. He said, look, so you trying to say that if my brother sinned against me 7 times in a day, I got to forgive him 7 times. That's what Peter asked the question. And Jesus turned around and said, look, I say not unto you 7 times, I say unto you 70 times. In other words, we're finna take it out of here. You can forget about it. Don't even try to count no more. See, and that's really what he's telling Daniel. He said, look, it's 70 weeks. Daniel thought the 70 years was up. He's talking about 70 weeks now. So he know this is drawn out. And we're gonna get into it. Again, it's not the easy thing to understand, but it's here for a reason. Verse 25.
Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times.
See, now that says a mouthful right there. But because the first thing we got to do, if it's going to be a timetable or a sentence that's going to be 70 weeks, we do need to know where to start that 70 weeks from. So that's what he gave them off the bat. And if you read that 25th verse, you see that he gave them the starting point, but then he chewed up 69 weeks right off the bat. So whatever the timetable is, the majority of it's gone. Because that's what the Lord is trying to show you. He really getting it down to the individual who going to fix things, who going to restore things, like Peter and them understood. They knew it was Jesus. That's why they said, will you restore the kingdom of Israel at this time? So he getting it down. He's showing you, look, somebody, the way this is going to get straightened out, Daniel, permanently, somebody got to come and do it. And that is the Messiah, the Prince. So after he gave him the whole timetable of 70 weeks, it'll be over then. When you finish the 70 weeks, it'll be over. But again, it wasn't a literal 70 weeks. It's prophetic. He really giving him weeks of years. Just like Jesus gave Peter, he said 70 times 7. Well, this is the exact same thing this is. This is 70 times 7. Because Daniel was already talking about 70 years. He said, look, Daniel, don't look at it so short like that. It's 70 weeks now, and that's weeks of years. So now, but he at verse 25, he took away 69 weeks just to get to the Messiah. So most of the time is up, but still, it can't be finished unless the Messiah is doing it. So unless the Messiah is here, you can't complete it. So he said in verse 25, know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem until the Messiah the Prince. So first of all, we got to find a commandment that's going to be given. That's going to start to count for the 70 weeks. Then once we find that commandment, we can go and find where the Messiah come in at. But he gave us a timetable of the Messiah. He said 69 weeks because he said from the commandment to restore. Remember, this is about restoring, right? That's what it's about. That's what Daniel wanted to know. That's even what Peter. Don't think it's an Old Testament thing, because Peter didn't want to know the same thing, didn't he? They hadn't forgot about it. Everybody want to know this. Everybody with some understanding want to know this. So he said, know therefore and understand from the going forth of the commandment to restore and build. So a commandment to restore and build Jerusalem. Commandment got to be given. From that time point until the Messiah show up on the scene, Messiah the Prince shall be what? 7 weeks and 62 weeks. That's 62. A score is 20. 3 score is 60. And you add the 2, that's 62. You add the 7, that's 69. So again, he done wiped out the 70 weeks down to 1 week, right? Just to get you to the fixer, which is the Messiah, the one that's going to restore it. And then he says something else at the end of verse 25. Read that again.
Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem until the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublous times.
See, he letting down. No, this is going to go through a whole lot of hills and valleys. He said it's going to be 69 weeks from the commandment to get to the Messiah. And in the meantime, that commandment is going to have some effect, because the commandment is what? To restore and build Jerusalem, right? That commandment is going to have some effect because the street and the city is going to be built, but it's going to be some hard times when it's being done, right? That's what he means at the end of 25. He said, and the street and the street shall be built and the wall, even in what kind of time? Troublous times. Going to be some hard times when it's done. Once that commandment is given, the commandment got to be given first. We got to identify that first, right? Now we're going to go to Ezra 6, but before, as you turn to Ezra 6, we're going to take a look at the handout. This timeline that we got. We got this for a reason, just to see if we can stay on point with some understanding on this. See, the Lord often, he give you prophetic prophecies that mean a little bit more than they say. Just like he made Israel wander around the desert for 40 years. Well, why did they only wandered around the desert for 40 years? Because the spies had spied out the land for 40 days. So he gave them a year for each day, because they came back with an evil report. So this 70 weeks, and some of the so-called scholars, they understand all of this. This 70 weeks is 70 times 7 years, which is 490 years. It'll be all over with. So if you look at the bottom, that's what we got. 70 weeks equals 70 times 7, all the way at the bottom, which is 490 years. The restoration will be complete. But now, we can take away 69 weeks just to get us until the Messiah. So that's what's under there. 69 times 7. That's just, in other words, it's only leaving you a week. A week is 7 years, brothers and sisters. That's what he's talking about in this case. He's talking about weeks of years. He says 70 weeks, but Daniel understood, and we understand it's weeks of years, because he's putting it out of reach. And then it's still going to be a gap in here, because it all hinges on the Messiah once he come into play. He's the one that got to do it. Can't be done without him. So if he can't do it, it won't never be done. But we know he can do it, and he gon' complete it. So look, 60. So really, the prophecy, the bulk of the prophecy, is giving Daniel a message that it's going to be restored by the Messiah, and it's going to take a long time for him to get here. Daniel understood. Look, he ain't going to even be living by the time this happens. It's going to take a long time for the Messiah to get here. So you can forget about it being a literal 70 years. So that's what's under that, minus 69 weeks. 69 times 7 is 483 years. Until the Messiah, that's what we read, right? 69 weeks. That leaves 1 week, which is 7 years. And that's what the Messiah, that's the time frame the Messiah got. He got a week once he come to do it. He got a week. That's why I got under that. Now the Messiah has 1 week to restore everything, because he's the one that got to do it. Now if you look at the chart above, just above that, The 70 weeks is 490 years. So that's why the line go all the way. That's when it'll be complete. So if you trace that line all the way up to the top, it's a restoration complete. 70 weeks over, Israel is at home. Because that's what this is all about. That's what Daniel was praying for. That's even what the apostles asked. Right above that, because we're working our way up on the chart. 60, well now, we're gonna stop reading it there because I don't want to confuse you so quick. Like I said, this is meat. But go to Ezra 6 and 14. Because we got to get some more reading in before we can really get a total grasp of the chart. But we did find out one thing that's on the chart that we read in Daniel 9, I should say, that it's all going to start from the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem. That's how you're going to start counting and get to the Messiah. You got to get that commandment. It got to be some form of a commandment to start counting the 70 weeks to get to the Messiah. And we know how many of the 70 weeks it's going to take to get to the Messiah. It's going to take 69. But it got to get that commandment, so that's what we're going to get to first. Then we can get back to the chart. Ezra 6 and 14, one verse. Ezra 6 and 14. Go ahead and read it.
And the elders of the Jews builded, and they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo. And they builded and finished it according to the commandment of God of the God of Israel, and according to the commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, king of Persia.
Okay, now look. Here we got a whole bunch of stuff and commandments in that one verse. Because we're looking for a commandment, because this is all about the restoration. See, Daniel got the prophecy in advance before any of it took place. That's what the Lord was showing him. Said, Daniel, this is how this is going to go down. This thing is going to take some time, and it's going to take bringing in the Messiah. We need the best to handle this. What you praying for, only the best going to do this. So that's where the Messiah is going to have to come in at. So Daniel started getting some understanding of it. And that's amazing that you have brothers. It's a lot of Israelite brothers that say they believe in the Old Testament, but don't believe in the New Testament, don't believe in Jesus, don't believe in the Messiah. But then you can take them back. We just read Daniel prophesied of the Messiah, right? What is the Messiah? The anointed one. That's why it said at verse 24, to anoint the most holy. That's what Messiah means, the anointed one. What are you going to anoint him for anyway? To handle this business. What business is he going to handle? Make a new religion called a Christian religion? It don't have nothing to do with that, do it? No. What Daniel was praying about, restore Daniel's people and the homeland. Restore it. Same question Peter and them asked him, was he going to do it at this time? Same thing. So that's who got to fix things, but we got to get the commandment. And since in verse 14 in here in Ezra 6, we got a few commandments, you got to do some seeking to find out which one is going to make it work. Because you got more than one here. Verse Ezra 6 and 14 said, but now, first I want to point out that Ezra was after Daniel, even though in the Bible it come before Daniel. Ezra come before Daniel in the Bible. You get to the book of Ezra, then Daniel's laid on down the road. But see, Daniel lived before Ezra. So Daniel got the prophecy about something that was going to happen later on in Ezra time. It's going to start to happen in Ezra time. We know it's going all the way down to Jesus time because they're bringing in the Messiah. But we trying to find the starting point, the commandment, which happened some years after Daniel, when in Ezra time. That's why we're reading in Ezra. See, remember, the street got to be rebuilt and all of that. But for that to happen, the commandment got to be given. So verse 14, Ezra 6, he said, the elders of the Jews builded. So they building something, right? And they prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddo. See, Haggai, which got a book in the Bible, a little small book after Daniel, and Zechariah, all those guys was before Daniel. Now, they books come after Daniel anyway, so that's more in chronological order, because they was after Daniel. But see, they was in the time of Ezra. So Ezra way up toward the front of the Bible, but still it came after Daniel, what took place. So it said the elders of the Jews built and prophesied and prospered through the prophesying of Haggai the prophet and Zechariah the son of Iddu, and they built and finished it according to the commandment of the God of Israel. Now we know God of Israel ran it all. But also he named some other commandments that they knew were very important. He said according to the commandment of Cyrus. Now Cyrus was a Gentile king of Persia. Matter of fact, all of them was that he's naming here. The commandment of Cyrus and Darius and Artaxerxes, kings of Persia. So all these guys made commandments. We just need to know which one fits the bill. So now let's go to Ezra 4. And we're going to look a little further. See, but now what Daniel heard was starting to come to pass. Ezra 4. See, if you don't believe in the Messiah, and you think you just an Old Testament Hebrew, look, you getting information about the Messiah all over the Old Testament. Even the timetable for when he would show up, way in advance of him being born on the earth. Ezra 4 and 1. Ezra 4 and 1. Because again, some building got to go on, but it wasn't going to be easy times to do it. That's why Daniel 9:25 said, in troublous times, the street was going to be built. 4 and 1. Go ahead.
Now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of the captivity builded the temple unto the Lord God of Israel.
See, notice it said the children of the captivity. That's what Daniel was, right? That's the whole problem, right? Daniel, he a slave in Babylon. The Lord been taking care of him, but still, he want to go home. He want to know when this thing going to be over, when it's going to be restored. I know you got a plan for it, God. Let me know. When is this going to be over? I was reading about Jeremiah. He was 70 years. What's going on? What's really going on? So he started to get the answer, right? He got the prophecy that 70 weeks is determined. And from the going forth of a particular commandment to the Messiah, it's going to be 69 of those weeks. And once that commandment is given, the street going to be built, Daniel, and the wall going to be built in troublous times. So lo and behold, some years after Daniel, some 100 years or so after Daniel, Ezra and Nehemiah go back home. They get a commandment, like Daniel got the prophecy, to go back home and rebuild and start rebuilding. And of course, it got to be troublous times, right? So of course, now again, this took place after Daniel because this is starting to fulfill the prophecy of Daniel. Now when the adversaries, it said Ezra 4 and 1, now when the adversaries of Judah and Benjamin heard that the children of Israel, children of the captivity, builded the temple unto the Lord God of Israel. Now their adversary says, look, these Israelites is trying to do something. What they do first, verse 2. They adversaries though. Go ahead.
Then they came to Zerubbabel and to the chief of the fathers and said unto them, let us build with you, for we seek your God as ye do.
See, everybody trying to help you ain't always trying to help you. The Bible already called them adversaries, right? So they see through this, because sometimes people get in the game to try to help you, but they just trying to mess things up. So we're not naive to that either. Go ahead.
And we do sacrifice unto him since the days of Esarhaddon, king of Asher, which brought us up hither.
Okay, so they wasn't Israelites. They had been brought to the land by the king of Assyria when the 10 tribes went out. That's how they got a foothold around the land. So now, then we read about Nebuchadnezzar taking the rest of them out. So really, they've been kind of doing their own thing in the land and thinking it's okay. But now the Lord let the real Jews come back, and they trying to put it back together. They trying to put true worship back on the market. Because they doing their own thing. They say they doing sacrifice, but they couldn't be doing sacrifice. They don't know him. The Lord only deal with Israel. But go ahead, verse 3.
But Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel.
See, now that's Zerubbabel, talk about him in Zechariah. And it talk about this Jeshua, or it call him Joshua, which show you how close the name Jesus is to that. Because Jesus is the Greek version of these names. So people want to scoff about the name of Jesus. Look, names get changed with the tongue. That's why this even was written in, wasn't even written in Hebrew. It was written in Aramaic. And that's why it's really Joshua we talking about here. If you read Zechariah the 6th chapter, it called him with the O. It got the O in there. But we ain't going to get upset about the O. They tricked us with an E, huh? You know, it's like they tricked us with the J. You know, Israelites scoff and stumble at the smallest of things, and they be talking about that all day while people dying for starvation of the word. So we know who this Jeshua is. It's Joshua from the book of Zechariah, the high priest. That's who it is. But Joshua and Jesus is the same name. That's why this is so close. But he said, but for Zerubbabel and Jeshua and the rest of the chief of the fathers of Israel said unto them, what they tell these people that claim they want to help now. Go ahead.
Ye have nothing to do with us to build a house unto our God.
Go ahead.
But we ourselves together will build unto the Lord, God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, have commanded us.
So they said, look, y'all ain't got nothing to do with this. We got to deal with this. And he said, as King Cyrus. Notice they threw in the king. Because see, the only way this is going to happen, they had to get permission now, because they had been taken out into slavery. See, that's why that commandment is so important. They had to get permission. You can say, well, God telling me to do this. Yeah, I need to see some physical permission. So they threw that physical permission out there, didn't they? They said, as we build unto the Lord our God of Israel, as King Cyrus, the king of Persia, have commanded us. Verse 4, go ahead.
Then the people of the land weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building.
See, they didn't want them to be successful anyway. So everybody act like they're trying to help, not trying to help. So they weakened the hands of the people of Judah and troubled them in building. Didn't we read about it supposed to be troublous times, though? Well, that's what we got, don't we? Go ahead, verse 5.
And hired counselors against them.
Oh, he even got people to go against him and go start talking to the magistrates, and, you know, it's like hiring a lawyer to go file a suit against you to get you to stop. But go ahead.
To frustrate their purpose all the days of Cyrus, king of Persia, even until the reign of Darius, king of Persia.
Go ahead.
And in the reign of Ahasuerus, in the beginning of his reign, wrote they unto him an accusation against the inhabitants of Judah and Jerusalem.
See, they went so far, they started writing letters on them. Go ahead.
And in the days of Artaxerxes, wrote Bishlam, Mithridath, Tabiel, and the rest of their companions unto Artaxerxes, king of Persia, and the writing of the letter was written in the Syrian tongue and interpreted in the Syrian tongue.
See, it don't matter what tongue is in, as long as you get some understanding of it. So their letter was written in a different tongue because these different people spoke different languages. But they can interpret it. They can find out what they're trying to say to us. Oh, they trying to say these people don't need to be building this bad city, because that's what they called us. They called us a bad people, which we are. And we was building a bad city, which if you don't serve the Lord, that's exactly what you, just like what is Gary recognized as? A bad city, right? Even Chicago, where Israel is at anyway, is recognized a bad city. Well, that's what the concern was here. But see, they was trying to do something good for a change. Skip down to verse 11. See, when Israel tried to do something good, people try to hinder it. Skip down the same time to verse 11, because they wrote this letter to the king at this time. Go ahead.
This is the copy of the letter that they sent unto him, even unto Artaxerxes the king, thy servants, the men on this side of the river, and at such a time. So
now they wrote this letter to the king Artaxerxes. See, we focus on him because it was 3 kings that gave commandments, but only one of them going to fit. Cyrus gave a commandment, but then they overrode his commandment. So they didn't complete the mission. They mentioned Darius gave a commandment because we read Ezra 6 and 14. It mentioned by the commandment of God, and it mentioned 3 kings, didn't it? Cyrus, Darius, and this guy, Artaxerxes. But only one of them is going to make sense for what we're trying to find, and that is to start our 70-week count, or really first the 69-week count to get to the Messiah. The Messiah going to take care of the last week. So really, we're looking for where to start our count to get to the Messiah, 69 weeks, which is really is 483 years. Because 7 times 69 is 483. You just got a week left, 7 years left after that, 490. But now, so they wrote this letter, and the king got this letter, and the letter says something like, thy servants, the men on this side of the river, at such a time, you know, they're going to be real humble to the king to get their request across. Go ahead, verse 12, Ezra 4 and 12. Go ahead.
Be it known unto the king that the Jews which came up from thee to us are come unto Jerusalem, building the rebellious and the bad city, and have set up the walls thereof, and joined the foundations.
See, they tried to help at first. Then when they couldn't join in and mess things up like they like to do, then they started getting the authorities on them. See, they had permission. They threw the permission out there, but they going to get the permission revoked. So they wrote back to the king, said, you know these people you sent up here? See, they used to enjoying things, doing things the way they want to do around it. So they don't want nobody else coming in doing nothing. You know these people you sent up here? We want to let you know for your benefit, king, they came to Jerusalem and they are building the rebellious and bad city. And even got the walls up. And joined the foundation, verse 13.
Be it known now unto the king that if this city be builded and a wall set up again, then will they not pay toll, tribute, and custom, and so thou shalt damage the revenue of the king.
They say, look, king, we going to let you know up front. If they finish this city, they going to say skip you. They ain't going to pay you nothing, and you're going to be losing money. That's what they using on 14.
Now because we have maintenance from the king's palace, and it was not meet for us to see the king's dishonor.
We don't want to see you be dishonored like that, king. Look, they just don't want them to complete. And ultimately it's from Satan. Satan always against the people of God. But go ahead.
Therefore have we sent and certified the king.
He said, that's why we sent this letter, king, so you can stop these shenanigans these Jews trying to do. Skip down to 17, because the king got the letter, and what he going to do? Go ahead.
Then sent the king an answer unto Rehum, the chancellor, and to Shimshai the scribe, and to the rest of the companions that dwell in Samaria, and unto the rest beyond the river.
Go ahead, read 18. It ain't on the handout, but read it.
Peace, and at such a time, the letter which he sent unto us have been plainly read before me.
He said, look, I got your letter, and it's been plainly read, and he did something else. You know, they told him to search the past records, and you'll find out what we saying. These people bogus. They gonna rebel against you. So he said, his search been made. Go ahead, we might as well read it on down. 19.
And I commanded, and search have been made, and it is found that this city of old time have made insurrection against kings.
He said, we found you was right. In the old time, it has made insurrection against kings. Go ahead.
And that rebellion and sedition have been made therein. There have been mighty kings also over Jerusalem, which have ruled over all countries beyond the river, and toll, tribute, and custom was paid unto them.
See, that was none other than David and Solomon them he was referring back to. But go ahead.
Give ye now commandment to cause these men to cease, and that this city be not builded until another commandment shall be given from me.
Okay, so now this guy stopped it. Now they had a bunch of kings with this name, this Artaxerxes. That was just a title kind of. They had a bunch of them. So this Artaxerxes, with this title, he stopped the building of it when they was trying to get something done, right? But now let's see what happens. Go over to the 7th chapter, because we want to get to the right commandment to build a city. That's going to allow them to complete it. Ezra 7 and 1. Ezra 7 and 1. Now this is later on. This is actually another Artaxerxes, not the same one. And even though he's known as the first, that's just a title too. He wasn't the first of that using that title. But now 7 and 1. Go ahead.
Now after these things, in the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia.
So this lets you know this is later on. You done went through some kings by this time. Now after these things, in the reign of Artaxerxes, king of Persia. Go ahead.
Ezra, the son of Seraiah, the son of Azariah, the son of Hilkiah.
So now it's tracing Ezra, but the only thing it's going to show you that Ezra was from a Levite. He was from Aaron. He was a Levite, and he was prepared to do the job, more importantly. The Lord had put it on Ezra. Skip down to verse 6, because it's going to tell us what this Ezra is doing under this Artaxerxes. Go ahead.
This Ezra went up from Babylon, and he was a ready scribe in the law of Moses.
Hey, he was ready. The Lord had versed him in the word of God. He was a ready scribe in the law of Moses. Go ahead.
Which the Lord God of Israel had given.
Uh-huh.
And the king granted him all his requests.
Uh-huh.
According to the hand of the Lord his God upon him.
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
And there went up some of the children of Israel, and of the priests, and the Levites, and the singers, and the porters, and the Nethinims unto Jerusalem in the 7th year Artaxerxes the king.
Okay, so this Artaxerxes allowed them to go up. He gave permission. We're going to find that out. But it happened in the 7th year. See, that's how you can find out timetables on some of this stuff. Because they're not even doing this from the Bible perspective. When we get into some history, they doing it from timetables that they got. Because they got records aside from the Bible. But see, we know the Bible is true. And you have to let history conform to the Bible. History gonna back it up. If it's not something wrong with the history, when it come a difference. But history will back it up. That's what another way lets you know the Bible is true. It's telling you about all these people, and they know these people in regular history. Even gonna give us a timetable. That's why we got a chart here. We're gonna have a timetable of what we trying to find from Daniel 9. So now, it said in the 7th year of Artaxerxes the king, Ezra and all these people went up with him, right? Go ahead, verse 8. Let's see when they got there.
And he came to Jerusalem in the 5th month, which was in the 7th year of the king.
See, he made it in the 5th. He left in the 1st month, and he made it in the 5th month. It's a long traveling back in them days. He made it in the 5th month, which was the 7th year of the king. What king? This king Artaxerxes, right? Now skip down to verse 11. We're going to read a little more. Go ahead.
Now this is the copy of the letter that the king Artaxerxes gave unto Ezra the priest, the scribe, even a scribe of the words of the commandments of the Lord, and of his statutes to Israel. Artaxerxes, king of kings, unto Ezra the priest.
See, that's what that title meant. Artaxerxes, king of kings, unto Ezra the priest. Go ahead.
A scribe of the law of the God of heaven.
See, he recognized the Lord was dealing with Ezra. This king recognized this. Go ahead.
Perfect peace, and at such a time.
Let's show you the Lord can give you favor in anybody's sight. He recognized what was going on with Ezra. So what did he do for Ezra? Verse 13.
I make a decree.
He said, I make a decree. Now this is years after the last decree got stopped, right? They said stop building, right? He said, I make a decree that what?
Yeah, all they of the people of Israel and of his priests and Levites in my realm, which are minded of their own free will, to go up to Jerusalem, go with thee.
See, he made a decree, and he had to put it in writing because, they're going to get a hard time from their neighbors. But go ahead.
For as much as thou art sent of the king and of his 7 counselors to inquire concerning Judah and Jerusalem, according to the law of thy God, which is in thine hand.
Go ahead.
And to carry the silver and gold, which the king and his counselors have freely offered.
See, they done gave money to Ezra to take care of this business, to start this building over, to get it completed. Go ahead.
Unto the God of Israel, whose habitation is in Jerusalem.
See, he understood some stuff. Verse 21, skip down, and he's going to tell us one more time. Go ahead.
And I, even I, Artaxerxes the king, do make a decree to all the treasurers which are beyond the river, that whatsoever Ezra the priest, the scribe of the law of the God of heaven, shall require of you, it be done speedily.
Okay, so this reversed that last decree to stop them from building, right? See, and we know, even the Bible telling us it's the 7th year. See, the Bible of this king, Artaxerxes, but the Bible don't give us the year, right? But this shows you how airtight stuff is with the Bible. So we're going to go to history, and you can find this in most history. And though it might vary a year or two, it's still going to come out the same on the other end. Because the prophecy is sure. The Lord said it's going to be 69 weeks from the commandment to build Jerusalem to the Messiah, he meant that. The Lord can't lie. And we know 69 weeks is 69 weeks of years. That's 69 times 7, 483. So now we're going to go to this encyclopedia. You can find it in other places too, but this is easily accessible. So this is, how you say it? Somebody say I pronounce it like Wikipedia. Wikipedia, okay. That's where this is from. And we looking under this guy right here, and you can look this up yourself. From what I understand, it might not be the best history source, but it's free. So that's pretty good to me. So Wikipedia, Artaxerxes the First. From Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Artaxerxes the First. That's what it said on there. I just copied off of that. Artaxerxes the First was the sixth. See, even though he's the first, it said he was the sixth king of kings of this dynasty, of this Alemanid empire. And it's going to give you his years. 465 BCE to 424 BCE. You know, BCE is before Common Era. That's what we supposed to live in now, the Common Era. What BCE is before the Common Era. So now, he was the son of Xerxes the First of Persia and a mistress, daughter of Otanes. In Greek sources, he is also surnamed, some gave you a Greek word, which ultimately in Latin means long manus, allegedly because his right hand was longer than his left. So now you ain't going to find none of this in the Bible, but what this do, this show you the Bible know what it's talking about, don't it? It's giving you some concrete information on this guy who we was just reading about, aside from the Bible. Then it go into some of when he was fighting, he said, after Persia had been defeated at Eurymedon, military action between Greece and Persia was at a standstill. So now we don't want to even read, you can read that on your own. We're going to skip down to what we want to get to, portrayal in the book of Ezra and Nehemiah. Artaxerxes, it gave you Hebrew pronounced, how it's pronounced. Commission, which we just read, commissioned Ezra, a Jewish priest, Kohen. See, I got a lot of these Israelites, you know, they be throwing these words around. I know what they're talking about, but look, we can just stick to the basics. You know, they be calling me, hey, Kohen. Look, I'm Elijah. You ain't got to go get too deep on me. But I know where it be coming from, but I don't even get in there. Just like when I was coming up in the word, yeah, I said shalom and all that, but I said, what the heck? Peace mean the same thing. So if I say shalom or peace, I ain't got to say all that, do I? I can keep it simple. Because sometimes, you know, you dealing with people who don't know what you're saying. You saying all them words. Like, what are you talking about? Shabbat shalom, brother. Shabbat shalom. Somebody else looking like, them people crazy over there. So they ain't going to hit nothing. So you ain't got to get so deep all the time. But he said, hey, a Jewish priest, Kohen, and scribe, by means of a letter of decree, see Cyrus added, to take charge of the ecclesiastical and civil affairs of the Jewish nation. A copy of this decree may be found in Ezra 7:13 through 28, which we just was reading, right? But now, this is what we want to get to. It said, Ezra thereby left Babylon in the first month of the 7th year of Artaxerxes' reign, right? And they give us the year, don't they? 457 BCE, right? See that you didn't get the year from the Bible, but we know it had to be a year, right? And we know we working with some years from whatever commandment that was given to restore Jerusalem to get to the Messiah. So now this is a year, and all this, even if it's off a year or two, it's still going to add up the same way when you get done. That means they just off a year or two at the other end. It don't matter, right? It's still going to add up the way the Lord said. He said specifically 69 weeks from the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince. Then he said the street and wall going to be built in troublous times. So now we got a year here. We got 457 BC of his reign. See, they know the year because they can pinpoint the year because they know, when this guy reigned. So if you tell me, it's the 7th year, they can look there, okay, 7th year, 457 BC. So they got that, which wasn't in the Bible, but they got it. So it said, at the head of a company of Jews that included priests and Levites, they arrived in Jerusalem in the first day of the 5th month of the 7th year, the Hebrew calendar. Then it go further, say the rebuilding of the Jewish community in Jerusalem had begun under Cyrus the Great, who had permitted Jews held captive in Babylon to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple of Solomon. See, it had begun, but see, it didn't get finished until this last commandment, right? Because it got stopped and stopped. That's why I said begun. So now, if this is 457 BC, we can go back to the chart now. Since that's what they told us. We can go back to the chart. And we're going to go to Nehemiah 4 so you can work that as well. That's where we're going to go in the Bible. We're going to go to Nehemiah 4. We're doing a whole lot of stuff. We're going to go to Nehemiah 4 and get some more. But if you look at the chart, that's why we got 457 BC, right? To the left. 457 BC restoration commandment, because it had to be a start point to start counting the 69 weeks to get to the Messiah. So if it started in 457 BC, we're going to see where that take us to. Just keep that in mind. Nehemiah 4. And we're going to pick it up at verse. We're going to skip a little bit, but we're going to start at 1. Nehemiah 4. Start reading at verse 1.
But it came to pass that when Sanballat heard that we builded the wall, he was wroth and took great indignation and mocked the Jews. And he spake before his brethren and the army of Samaria and said, What do these feeble Jews? Will they fortify themselves? Will they sacrifice? Will they make an end in a day? Will they revive the stones out of the heaps of the rubbish which I burned? Now Tobiah the Ammonite was by him, and he said, Even that which they build, if a fox go up, he shall even break down their stone wall. Hear, O our God, for we are despised, and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity. And cover not their iniquity, and let not their sin be blotted out from before thee, for they have provoked thee to anger before the builders. So built we the wall, and all the wall was joined together unto the half thereof, for the people had a mind to work. But it came to pass that when Sanballat and Tobiah and the Arabians and the Ammonites and the Ashdodites heard that the walls of Jerusalem were made up, and that the breaches began to be stopped.
Okay. Now, he had to do a little extra reading because I had to change the battery. But the bottom line is, this is when the building was going on, because not only did we need to find a commandment, we need to find that the wall and stuff is going to be completed in troublous times, according to Daniel 9:25. So that's what we're reading about right here. We know it was troublous times already, because Ezra and them had a hard time. In Ezra, they had a hard time. The commandment got reversed. And then Artaxerxes gave another decree for Ezra and them to go up. Nehemiah even came a little bit later, after Ezra. All this is 100 years or so after Daniel got the prophecy. That's what the Lord was. The Lord was showing Daniel all of this that we read. So once they started building behind that decree given by Artaxerxes, we read in 457 BC, this is still, they still got trouble on their hands. So they had some of these people that was running things, they was upset, and it looked like they wasn't going to be able to complete it. Did you read 4? You read 4, didn't you? Mm-hmm. See, what they did, they started to speak against them, thought that was going to hold them back, but it said verse 4 that the the people of Israel, they said, hear, O our God, for we are despised, and turn their reproach upon their own head, and give them for a prey in the land of captivity. They said, look, work for us as we doing this work, Lord. But now skip down, to save time, skip down to verse 8 and go ahead.
And conspired all of them together to come and to fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it.
See, now when that didn't work, when the little threats didn't work, and they didn't think they was going to complete nothing, they was talking about, oh, they can't do nothing. They ain't, them feeble Jews not going to do nothing. Then when it started working, they really got mad. They said, oh man, they doing something. When they saw it being successful, they said, we got to go stop them physically. So that's where it got to this point, verse 8. And conspired all of them together and come and fight against Jerusalem and to hinder it. But now, we know this got to happen because Daniel got the prophecy of the street and the wall being built when? In troublous times, after the commandment was given to restore. When was the commandment? 457 BC. When this happened, you can say this happened in approximately around 440-something BC. That's when this happened with Nehemiah, what we're reading right now. But go ahead.
Verse 9.
Uh-huh.
Nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our God and set a watch against them day and night because of them.
See, because time counted down, of course, in those days. Before the common era, time went down. So it went from 457 on down. That's how time was progressing. So they conspired, and Nehemiah said, we made our prayer unto our God. See, verse 9 is show you something important. Not only do you got to pray to God, people say just pray. Now, when you get through praying, you need to do something too. You don't need to pray for God to do something, then you just sit and don't move. You know, I'm going to pray for a job, like somebody going to come knock on your door. You need to pray for a job. Lord, direct me, then you need to go looking. Or anything else you need to do. So they did it, right? They said, verse 9, nevertheless, we made our prayer unto our God, and after praying, they did what? Set a watch against them day and night because of them. See, but if the Lord ain't on your side, whatever you're doing ain't going to matter. So you definitely need to seek the Lord. But they set a watch, right? Skip down to verse 13 and go ahead.
Therefore set I in the lower places behind the wall and on the higher places. I even set the people after their families with their swords, their spears, and their bows.
Oh, boy, they really started set a watch for real, didn't he? He wasn't playing. He said they had to start packing, didn't he? They was packing. He said, I set the people after their families with swords and spears and bows. See, Israel always been packing. They was packing during Jesus' time. Jesus started talking about a sword. We got swords right here, Lord. You want a sword? How many swords you want? They started pulling up about to cut somebody. That's why even when Jesus got arrested, Peter chopped the man ear off. They didn't have no problem packing. So they did it. And in this case, it was necessary, wasn't it? Because they was dealing with some troublous times. Skip down to verse 16. Go ahead.
And it came to pass from that time forth that the half of my servants wrought in the work, and the other half of them held both the spears, the shields, and the bows. And the habergeons and the rulers were behind all the house of Judah.
Well, that's really some rough times when half the people working, other people got to be looking out. Go ahead, keep reading.
They which builded on the wall, and they that bear burdens, with those that laden, every one with one of his hands wrought in the work, and with the other hand held a weapon.
Oh, that's something, isn't it? You really in some hard times, boy. It's just like we building around here, we doing some work. You know, I know brothers be packing around here too. But still, it's like, but still, you really worried when you got to have one hand building and the other hand on your pistol, right? Well, that's what they was doing. Go ahead, verse 18.
For the builders, every one had his sword girded by his side, and so built.
See, they trying to build, but they got to be on the lookout, don't they? Go ahead.
And he that sounded the trumpet was by me.
And they had somebody ready to blow the trumpet and let everybody know, look, leave the work and come fight. These people tripping. So now, these are troublous times. That's what the commandment was told to Daniel. Now, go to Wikipedia again, and we're going to finish that off. Because we just saw the fulfillment of Daniel 9:25. We saw the commandment was given by Artaxerxes in 457 BC. And we saw even after that, they was building and they had to have a weapon in one hand and a work tool in the other hand. So that went on after the commandment was given, just like Daniel 9:25 said, from the commandment to restore and build Jerusalem, and then the street going to be built in troublous times. But we trying to get from that commandment and all that troublous times they had, we trying to get from there to the Messiah. That's what we need to get to. And we need to get 69 weeks from that commandment, which is 483 years. So we're going to go down the road some, 4 BC. That's not exactly 483 years, but we're going to show you why we're going here. 4 BC, from Wikipedia, the free encyclopedia. Year 4 BC was a common year. This at the bottom of the handout. Was a common year starting on a Tuesday or a Wednesday. I don't think they know what day, because I read some more stuff. They said it was a Monday from another source. But it said, even in this, I think it throw Monday in. But anyway, they said something about the link would display the full count of the Julian calendar. The sources differ. See leap year era for further information. And a common year starting on Monday. That's what I read before. Of the proletic Julian calendar. But at any rate, we talking about the year as a whole. We ain't so much concerned what day it started on. At the time, it was known as the year of consulship of Cybernus and Rufus, or less frequently year 750, something, whatever that is. The denomination 4 BC for this year has been used since the early medieval period, when our Dominic calendar era, which is what we deal with, AD, that's the era we in now, became the prevalent method in Europe for naming years. But anyway, we dealing with 4 BC, and it tells you something about after the death of Herod the Great, who's in the Bible, there's unrest in the kingdom. We're not even concerned with that. We're going to go down to births. Down here it said births. Jesus, due to 4 BC being the year of King Herod's death, it is usually cited by modern biblical literalists as being the last possible birth year of Jesus. And then they got D circa AD 30. What that means, they also giving you Jesus' death. They say that's AD 30. So, but the bottom line is, they giving us the year of his birth as 4 BC, right? Then they go further and say, they kick Christmas upside the head. They say Jesus' birthday is unknown, but biblical literalists based on 2 gospels claim it was around April, which they ain't even got that right. It ain't around April either. It was in the fall. And they said some other places to show you that. But we don't care about all of that. We concerned with they giving us Jesus' birth right at this time, 4 BC, and his death in AD 30. That's what they giving us as well. That's why I said at the bottom, it said death. It said Herod the Great. He was born in 73 BC, and they saying he died around 4 BC. So all this might give or take a year or two, but it's still going to balance out no matter what. So if we go from, let's go back to the chart. Matter of fact, and we're going to go to Luke the 3rd chapter. We're going to go ahead and just read Luke the 3rd chapter first. We'll go ahead and read it. And then we'll look at the chart after that before we go back to Daniel. Luke 3, and we're going to pick it up at verse 21. But it told us Jesus was born in approximately 4 BC and died in approximately 30 AD, which is, of course, everybody know, anybody doing the research know Jesus lived to be 33 years old. Basically 33 and a half years old. That's how you know if he died in the spring, he had to be born in the fall. Because we know he died in the spring at the Passover. So now, everybody pretty much know that. And that's how they know how long his ministry was, which was 3.5 years. But we're going to see what the Bible says to further us along. Luke 3 and 21. Go ahead. Luke 3 and verse 21. Go ahead.
Now when all the people were baptized, it came to pass that Jesus also, being baptized and praying, the heaven was opened. And the Holy Ghost descended in a bodily shape like a dove upon him. And a voice came from heaven, which said, Thou art my beloved Son, in thee I am well pleased.
See, we're not even really concerned with his birth, just to pick up the time. We're really concerned with when he became the Messiah, which was when he got anointed, when he got baptized. See, that's when he got anointed. Remember, we're looking for the most holy to be anointed in Daniel 9:24. We're looking for this most holy to be anointed. We're looking for this Messiah, which means anointed one. So it ain't necessarily talking about his birth in Daniel 9. It's talking about when he got on this mission and started doing this work that he was anointed to do. He was anointed to do this. The most holy got anointed. By who? The Father. That's why I say the Holy Ghost descended in a bodily shape like a dove. The Father put the Spirit on him. And it came down from heaven. A voice came down from heaven which said, Thou, my beloved Son, in thee I am well pleased. Go ahead, verse 23.
And Jesus himself began to be about 30 years of age, being, as was supposed, the son of Joseph, which was the son of Eli.
Okay, now when this took place, in other words, when Jesus got anointed, it's telling us he was about 30 years of age, right? He was about 30 years of age. So that means if he was born in approximately 4 BC, this had to take place in approximately 26 AD. Because you got to count the 4 years down to get to the common era. To leave BC, you got to count 4 years down. If it was BC, that's 4 years. Then if you count 26 more years up, because wasn't no zero, you count 26 years up, that's add 26 and 4 is 30, right? So that takes you, that gets Jesus to be about 30 years of age, like it said, and it takes you to 26 AD. So now if we look at this, it's no coincidence. Like I said, you can give or take a year or two on both ends. It's still going to add up because the Lord can't lie. The Lord says 69 weeks from the commandment to the Messiah, to get us to the Messiah. And he gave you stuff that was going to happen after the commandment. We saw that. The street and the wheel and the wall being built in troublous time. So we got on the chart here, on the left, restoration commandment 457 BC. 69 weeks, which is 483 years, takes you to 26 AD. That either that's quite a coincidence or the Lord know what he's talking about, don't he? That's exactly what it is. That's exactly 483 years, because you count 457 down. We got to 26 AD because we know Jesus was born in approximately 4 BC. But you count 457 years down, then you count 26 years up to 26 AD, that's 483 years. So now we have prophecy in Daniel to get us to the Messiah. See, and all this again is about restoring Israel. The Lord was letting Daniel know the Messiah. This is a job only for the Messiah. We got to get to him, and it's going to take all the 70 weeks. It's going to take 70 weeks to do it, but it's going to take 69. I'm giving you a timetable to get to him. So now we got to him. Let's go to Daniel 9, back to Daniel 9. And we'll read over that again to make sure we understand. Like I said, this is meat. It ain't the easiest thing to understand, but it's in the Bible for a reason. Somebody can understand it, right? It wouldn't even be in the Bible. Daniel 9 and verse 25 again. We read it. We're going to read it one more time. Daniel 9 and verse 25. Go ahead.
Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the commandment to restore and to build Jerusalem unto the Messiah the Prince shall be 7 weeks, and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublous times.
Now we saw that going on after the commandment was given in 457 BC. We got all this from other sources too. We got the information from the Bible. When we look at other sources, we can run it down. It's going to add up. That's how the Lord do things. So we saw when the commandment was given, we saw the troublous times after the commandment was given, and they completed it. And we saw that commandment took us to the Messiah, the Prince, in exactly the amount of time the Lord said, 69 weeks, 483 years. Let's go to verse 26 now. Go ahead.
And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself.
Okay, see, now this is the kicker in everything. The reason why it's not over yet, because by all practical purposes, it should have been over when the Messiah got here. But see, we know the Messiah didn't do everything he had to do when he got here. He only did part of it. Because a big part of what he had to do was die for the people. He had to die. So therefore, if he died, he wasn't going to complete it all. And when he resurrected, he knew it wasn't time to complete it all, because when the disciples asked him, he told them it's not for you to understand, right? They asked him point blank after he resurrected. They said, okay, they figured this was it now. He done died. You done died. He done resurrected. They said, will you, in the first scripture we read in Acts 1:6, will you at this time restore again the kingdom of Israel? He told them it's not for you to know. So he still wasn't ready to complete it. So this is where we get kind of suspended at. But it's got to be done. Because the 70 weeks got to get completed. We ain't got through them yet. We got the 69 to get to him. Took 69 to get to him. Then we find out something else. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off. So now after he came, because this only says 62 weeks. Some people say, well, they left out the 7 from the other verse. But the bottom line is, we know that the Messiah can't be cut off until he get here. I don't necessarily say they left off the 7. They could be starting to count from a different point, because they left off verse 25, said the street shall be built again and the wall even in troublous time. So, and we know all of that rigmarole took 40-some years if you read Acts to John, the 2nd chapter. They even told Jesus, this temple been in building 46 years in John, the 2nd chapter. See, all that stuff took a lot of time, so they could just be starting from a different point. But it don't matter. 69 weeks got chewed up when the Messiah got here. So we know it's only a week left. We can count. 69 from 70 is 1. So it's only 1 week left. And he going to get to that week. He going to get to that week that's left. So, but when the Messiah came, it's letting you know he had to be cut off, and not for himself. That's what it said at verse 26. After 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself and the people. Read that verse again, the end of it.
And the people of the prince that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with the flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined.
See, now Daniel is probably wondering what's going on. The Messiah came. He got to get cut off. You didn't got the city built. See, really letting Daniel know, look, this is long and drawn out. The city going to be built in troublous times, but that ain't the finality of it, because I'm going to tear that down again. That's what he just told Daniel, right? Because Messiah going to come. After the Messiah come, he said, and the people of the prince. This is what people get thrown off at too. He said the people of the prince, which is the Romans. See, the Romans was on the scene when the Messiah came, right? The Romans are the ones that helped cut him off, right? They helped kill him, put him to death. So that's who is referring to. The people of the prince shall come and shall destroy the city and the saints. So all that work Ezra, Nehemiah, and them did, guess what? Down the tubes, right? We still a long way from home, ain't we? It look like we ain't got nowhere, but we got a long way, because we got 69 weeks and we got the one on the scene that's going to fix it. He just got to fix it a certain way. What way do he got to fix it? He got to die first. That's the first part of fixing it, which is going to suspend things once he died, because he not able to complete it all then, right? He got cut off. That's what it said. After 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off. Who he get cut off for? It said, but not for himself, because he ain't did nothing wrong. He doing this for Daniel's people. Daniel praying about his people in the Holy Land. That's what he doing it for. Then the place got destroyed, right? Let's look at that. Go to Isaiah 53. Let's look at the cutoff first, because it said not for himself. See, this is how you can identify Jesus all over the Old Testament. You ain't got to go to the New Testament. I deal with Hebrew brothers that say they don't believe in the New Testament. I said, fine, you believe in the Old Testament? Yep, well, get your Bible.
I can show you Jesus back there. Whether you take him or not, that's up to you. You can't get around Jesus in the Old Testament. Who is the Messiah? I hear Hebrew brothers just making up stuff now. Oh, well, that was Cyrus and that was this. Look, you just making up stuff. Like this Isaiah 53. Some of them say this is the whole nation of Israel. Couldn't be. This is one individual come from the nation. Isaiah 53:5. Go ahead.
But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities.
See, he was wounded for our transgressions. That ain't the whole nation. That's one individual suffering for the nation. He was wounded for our transgression. He was bruised for our iniquities. Go ahead.
The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we were healed.
See, he fixing it like Daniel wanted. Verse 8. Go ahead.
All we like sheep have gone astray. We have turned every one to his own way, and the Lord have laid on him the iniquity of us all.
See, he said we didn't went astray. You see, I told you to skip to verse 8 though. That's good scripture, but skip to verse 8. Go ahead.
He was taken from prison and from judgment, and who shall declare his generation?
Go ahead.
For he was cut off out of the land of the living.
Oh, he was taken from prison and judgment, and who shall declare his generation? Why? For he was cut off out of the land of the living. We just read the Messiah had to be cut off, right? For who? Not for himself, right? Let's see for who. Go ahead.
For the transgression of my people was he stricken.
Oh, for the transgression of my people he was stricken. Just like Daniel was praying for his people, wasn't he? His people Israel. See, the Messiah had to do this for the people first. He had to be cut off. He had to die for our sin. That's the only way this thing could be fixed. Remember, that was part of the verse 24 in Daniel 9. That was part of all the stuff that had to take place in the 70 weeks. He had to make reconciliation for iniquity. He had to do all of that stuff. He just couldn't come and fix things physically because it wouldn't do no good, because you all going to die and go to hell anyway for sins. So it wouldn't do no good. So he had to make reconciliation for iniquity and get rid of the sins. He had to do that by dying according to this. Now, go to John 2. This is what I was quoting earlier. John, the 2nd chapter. See, and he knew what he had to do when he came on the scene. But when he came on the scene, he started his work as the Messiah in approximately 26 AD. That's when he started his work. John 2 and verse 13. John 2 and 13. Okay. You can go ahead and read it. Go ahead. See, he knew that he had to be cut off, though. That's what he's going to tell these people. Go ahead.
And the Jews' Passover was at hand. And Jesus went up to Jerusalem and found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of money sitting.
Go ahead.
And when he had made a scourge of small cords,
he made him some whips outside. And then he went in there and whipped some butt. Go ahead.
He drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the table.
See, because it was just like most churches out today. It was just like business. That's all church is nowadays, business. Don't nobody care about showing people what the Lord said about his word. It's all business. That's why they talk money, money, money. They pass the plate and do all that, because that's what it's about. But Jesus was fed up with that. Go ahead, 16.
And said unto them that sold doves, take these things hence. Make not my Father's house a house of merchandise.
See, they selling everything in the church. Trying to make it like it's about God, but no, it's really about you trying to get some money. Go ahead, 17.
And his disciples remembered that it was written, the zeal of thine house hath eaten me up.
18.
Then answered the Jews and said unto him, what sign showest thou unto us, seeing that thou doest these things?
They want to see a miracle. Well, give us a miracle or something since you doing this. Why should we believe you? Because he's messing up with their program. So they want to see a sign. He's going to give them one. 19.
Jesus answered and said unto them, destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up.
See, he knew he was making them mad, and he knew ultimately he was going to have to die, and he knew ultimately they was going to have to kill him. So he said, I tell you, I'm going to give you the sign. Destroy this temple, and in 3 days I will raise it up. They think he's talking about the temple he just whooped their butt out of. See, he done went over their head now. Go ahead. But they came back physical. 20.
Then said the Jews, 46 years was this temple in building, and wilt thou rear it up in 3 days?
See, they said 40 and 6 years was this temple in building. And will you rear it up in 3 days? See, that's close to the 7 weeks right there that wasn't in Daniel 9:26, because 7 weeks, 7 times 7 is 49. And it said it took 46 years just to build a temple, let alone they had to do the street and the wall and all that stuff, right? So basically, we know now, but he on the scene after the 69 weeks. It's only a week left. He on the scene. Now we know also he got to be cut off sometime in that time period. And he talking about it here. Go ahead, verse 21.
But he spake of the temple of his body.
See, that's what he was talking about, the temple of his body. He knew he was going to die, and he told them, look, I'm going to be raised up in 3 days. They went physical temple. No, he talking the temple of his body because he knew his mission. Let's go to Luke 19. Luke 19. Because now we in Daniel 9:26. We seeing how that played out. How did it play out? The Messiah had to be cut off, not for himself. Then we read something else at the end of Daniel 9:26. The people of the prince shall come and destroy the city. See, all this was already told long before it happened. So what does that mean? Jesus, when the Messiah get here, after 69 weeks from that commandment given, he's going to die sometime after he get here. We're going to get to exactly how long. It's only a week left. He's going to die. After he died, it told you that the people of the prince shall destroy the city. So Jesus just talked about dying. Let's see if he knew about the people coming to destroy the city. Luke 19:41. Luke 19:41. He just talked about them destroying the temple and it being raised up in 3 days, talking about his body. Let's get to the people of the prince, the Romans. That's going to destroy the city after he get cut off. 41. Luke 19:41. Go ahead.
And when he was come near, he beheld the city and wept over it.
See, this is all important to Jesus. People don't know what's important to Jesus. They calling on Jesus, oh, love Jesus. But they want to separate Jesus from everything that's important to him. From his mission to restore Israel. Don't nobody talk about that when it comes to Jesus. How many churches tomorrow that's going to be calling on Jesus, going to be telling you that that's Jesus' mission to restore Israel? The very question that Peter and the apostles asked him. See, it wasn't for them to know, but it's for somebody to know. Somebody going to be living when he do it. See, we at the time now, all the signs point to it. So he wept over Jerusalem, the city, 42.
Saying, if thou hadst known, even thou, at least in this thy day, the things which be loved unto thy peace. But now they are here from thine eyes.
See, he crying over the city because he knew after he died, hard times was going to come back on the city. It's going to reverse all the work that Ezra, Nehemiah, and them did. He knew it was going to get reversed. They went through all that trouble building. You know, that was a lot of work, building with a weapon in one hand and a tool in the other hand, right? They went through all that for these Jews to mess it up and let everything get destroyed. Go ahead. That's why he's weeping. Go ahead.
For the days shall come upon thee, that thine enemies shall cast a trench about thee.
What are he talking about? He's talking about Jerusalem. Go ahead.
And compass thee round, and keep thee in on every side. And shall lay thee even with the ground.
And gonna lay you even with the ground. Go ahead. Flatten you. Go ahead.
And thy children within thee.
And your children within. They ain't just gonna knock the buildings down. They gonna knock your children down. Go ahead.
And they shall not leave in thee one stone upon another, because thou knewest not the time of thy visitation.
See, they're going to tear everything down. See, this is what amazed the apostles when Jesus kept saying this. They said, wait a minute, you the restorer. You here, but you telling us it's going to get destroyed. That seems like contradiction, don't it? But you just got to understand the timetable. He didn't come to restore it all in that day. He got to suspend it. So he telling them it's all going to get destroyed. It won't be one stone left upon another. Luke 21. Luke 21, just flip over a page, and we're going to read something else he told us. See, so the answer to Daniel's prayer was indeed really drawn out, wasn't it? That's why he gave him a 70-week prophecy. He said, Daniel, I'm going to show you this thing is so far out your reach, you can quit agonizing. You ain't getting ready to go back home now, brother. This thing is way down the road. One time, Daniel kept saying in Daniel 12, Lord, tell me the end. Tell me the end of these things. They said, Daniel, don't worry about this. You go sleep, brother. you're going to go sleep. You're going to wake up at the end and get your reward. See, but he wanted to know. He knew it was important. The apostles wanted to know. They knew the restoration of Israel was important. We living when it's about to happen. We don't even care to know. We talking about going to heaven. Things is backwards, boy, ain't it? Luke 21 and 24. Read that. Go ahead.
And they shall fall by the edge of the sword, and shall be led away captive into all nations.
See, this is what happened when the people of the prince, the Romans, cast a trench around Jerusalem. See, that's where they mess up verse 27. They try to focus on somebody called the prince, which is Satan. But verse 26 in Daniel 9 said, the people of the prince shall destroy the city and the sanctuary, and the end thereof shall be with the flood, and unto the end of the war, desolation of the tongue. It said the people of the prince. Well, here they go right here. The Roman Empire. It said, but what they did to Israel, it said, they shall fall by the edge of the sword. That's us. And shall be what?
Led away captive into all nations.
And here we are. And what's going to happen to the homeland that needs some restoration in the meantime? What?
And Jerusalem shall be trodden down of the Gentiles until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled.
See, this lets you know this is a long time off. That's why Peter and them didn't understand it wasn't going to happen in their day. They asked, would you do it at this time? He said, don't even worry about it. That ain't for y'all to know. It ain't getting ready to happen. It ain't for you to know when it's going to happen. Now, we're going to go to Daniel 9 again, but on the way, you can go to Daniel 9. We're going to pick up this last history from the last 2 million years. We're going to look at that. Page 87 of the last 2 million years. Just to show you, this stuff is in multiple sources. This is a whole different encyclopedia from what we done read already from Wikipedia, but we got another source to back it up. We ain't going to read all of this. It's blurred on the left anyway, but I didn't want that anyway. We just want to get where it says faith survives the dispersion, right? Because Jesus just told us about a dispersion. What did he say? You're going to be led away captive into all nations. He told you the people going to surround you and lay you with the ground and destroy everything. Then he told you the rest of the people going to be led into captivity. They're going to kill up who they want to, and they're going to send the rest into captivity all over the world. He said all nations. So, but still, the Lord going to have some people somewhere with some faith in them. So it says faith survives the dispersion, right? Then it says the crucifixion of Jesus about AD 30. Now notice that. They got the same date we already came up with, don't they? About AD 30. We done calculated he was born in about 4 BC. He got anointed the Messiah in 26 AD at the age of 30. The Bible said he was 30, right? That's 26 AD. So that gave us our 483 years from the commandment in 457 BC to him becoming the Messiah and starting his work, being anointed in 26 AD. But now the work begins when he got anointed. He didn't just get anointed and sit down, did he? No, he went on a mission and do some work. He got a week. If he did the whole week, I imagine he would have went all the way to 34 sometime, 33 AD, right? But we know he didn't do the whole week because we already got scripture to tell us he got cut off, right? Not only do we got scripture to tell us he had to be cut off for the transgression of the people, we also got history that's telling us he died. The other Wikipedia told us he died in about 30 AD, right? It told us that. And this one is telling us he died in about 30 AD. So that means, which is common knowledge to most people, especially these so-called scholars, they won't none of them argue on this, that Jesus' ministry lasted from 26 AD to 30 AD, or 3.5 years, or according to prophecy, what we dealing with, a half a week. A half a week. So he died, he got a week, he got 7 years. So he died in the middle of that week, didn't he? If his ministry was he only completed 3.5 years, from 26 AD to 30. So we right on point, right? And then the only next thing after he died, at some point later, he got to do that other half a week. But according to prophecy, the next thing on the agenda wasn't for him to do the half a week right away. The next thing on the agenda was for the city to get destroyed after he died, right? Said the people of the prince going to come and destroy it. Jesus backed that up himself. And that's what we're getting ready to read about here. So it said, faith survives the dispersion. The crucifixion of Jesus about AD 30 did not end Jewish resistance to the Roman occupation. In 70, now this 40 years after he done died, when the country was again in a state of revolt, Jerusalem, the holy city, became the core of resistance to the Rome. See, I told you the Romans were the people of the prince. They the ones did what Jesus prophesied they would do and what Daniel got the prophecy that they would do, destroy the place. All over again after Ezra and Nehemiah did all that work. So it said the holy city Jerusalem became the core of resistance to the Romans. Titus, the son of Emperor Vespasian, proceeded to lay siege to Jerusalem. Ain't that what Jesus just said? They're going to surround you in, and then they're going to lay you with the ground and your children within you. This is what happened. The city fell, and the inhabitants were enslaved in their thousands and dispersed throughout the Mediterranean world. Okay, this is exactly what we just read. Jesus said, all this hard time going to come on you, and you're going to be led away captive into all nations. But now we even get a timetable when this happened in 70 AD. This don't have no place on our chart because for the chart purposes, we only dealing with the 70 weeks. We only dealing with the time of restoration that he's pinpointed. 69 weeks was gone when it got to bring the Messiah on the scene. The Messiah got a week to complete things. He only did a half a week. So now if we look back at the chart before we go to back to Daniel 9, we're going to go to Daniel 9. But if we look back at the chart, we see everything we done went over. It started in 457 BC. 69 weeks took us to 26 AD, which is 483 years. That's when the Messiah was anointed. See, he didn't become the Messiah till he was anointed. That's what Messiah means, the anointed one. Okay, Jesus died in approximately 30 AD if you go down toward the bottom. He did 3.5 years, or you can say half a week, right? So, and things basically been suspended since then. Since he died, things been suspended. That's why it's a gap in there. But we know when Jesus come back, he got a half a week or 3.5 years to finish things. Because we got to complete the 7 weeks. And when we complete it, it's going the whole thing will be done. Israel will be restored. Until then, Israel can't be restored. So that's why down all the way at the bottom, in the middle, it said, now the Messiah at the bottom of the page. Now the Messiah has 1 week to restore everything. Half a week equal a half times 7, which is 3.5 years. Messiah was cut off. See, that's what interrupted him finishing. Let's make sure on that. Daniel 9 and 27, because he got a half a week left. See, he going to do this, brothers and sisters. The Lord can't lie. This is at the top of his agenda, so much so when Jesus came, he said he was only sent to the lost sheep of Israel. He knew what mission he was on. You might not know. People that say they believe in him might not know, but Jesus knew himself. He knew what he had to do. He didn't mix no bones about it. So much so he told the woman, I can't even, he called her a dog. Said, it ain't good for me to take the children's bread, cast it to dogs. He called the woman a dog. That's how important it was for him to do his mission. Now, he the God of all people, and he want to save people from all nations, but he know what his job is first. That's why he went on ahead and saved and healed the woman's daughter. But he let her know the plan was still good. Daniel 9 and 27. This is the last verse in this chapter. This is the one they get a 7-year tribulation, which if you can understand all that we dealt with so far, this ain't got nothing to do with tribulation, period, do it? It's only talking about Jesus restoring Israel. 27, go ahead.
And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week.
See, he got a week. See, they make this be the Antichrist. They throw the Antichrist out of nowhere in here because they don't understand. No, we still dealing with, you can't get sidetracked by the end of verse 26 and forget what this whole thing is about. Yeah, the end of verse 26 said the people of the prince. Didn't say the Antichrist anyway, did it? It didn't even say the prince, which is Satan. It didn't say the prince in verse 26. It said the people of the prince, right? Which we have saw that that's none other than the Romans. That was the Romans. Yeah, when Jesus got cut off, 40 years later, the Romans came and tore things down just like the prophecy said, right? Jesus backed up the prophecy because he told us it was going to happen. He let Peter and them know, even though it shocked the heck out of Peter and them, he let them know, look, it ain't going to be one stone left for it. They said, what you talking about? This the holy city. Ain't you come to restore it? Not right now. That's what he was letting them know. I'm doing spiritual restoration first. So 27 said, he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. They try to come up with some foolish teaching that, see, this the Antichrist and tribulation. They know it's about prophetic. They know it means 7 years. So they say, see, this is a 7-year tribulation. The Antichrist, he going to make a covenant with the Jewish people over there, and then he going to back out on it. He going to make a covenant. Look, it didn't say nobody going to make a covenant anyway, did it? Make and confirm is 2 different ingredients. It didn't say make a covenant. That's what they got to say, though. To bring the Antichrist in here magically, they say, oh, see, the Antichrist, he going to make a covenant with the Jews, and then he going to break the covenant after 3.5 years. See, the tribulation is 7 years. Look, the Bible tells you all over 40 and 2 months, 1,260 days, a times and a half. Tribulation is only 3.5 years. See, that's the Antichrist. He going to imitate the Messiah. He know the Messiah got 3.5 years. He going to have the same time. But see, the Messiah, 3.5 years is going to be after it's all over with. When he got to be here for it to be used in his time. He used 3.5 years walking this earth when he first came. When he make his second coming, that's at the top of his list. Go ahead, read 27 all the way through.
And he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week.
Uh-huh.
And in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease.
See, they attribute this to the Antichrist. They say he going to make a covenant, and then he going to break the covenant with the Jewish people. Now, this is back to what this topic is about. The Messiah got to come. He only got a week when he get here, right? So what he going to do? He going to confirm the covenant for 1 week, but it's telling you the week got to be broken up. We already knew he got cut off, right? We already can see he only ministered for 3.5 years. It's all in line. And in the midst of the week, he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. Jesus did that, not some Antichrist. He caused it to cease when he died. You don't have to offer no animals no more. He lets you know that. He shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation. When he do that? In the midst of the week. Go ahead.
And for the overspreading of abominations, he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate.
See, again, this is still talking about what we've been talking about, how this thing is going to get restored. So, this is the final analysis. The Messiah is going to restore it. He got a week to restore it. He just going to get interrupted in his week by being cut off. But let's make sure, let's go to Matthew 27 and see when he got interrupted, when he died, what happened when he was on the tree to cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. Matthew 27. Matthew 27. See, that's talking about him because he's the one got to restore things. He got to restore it. So, he didn't do his whole week because in the midst of the week he got cut off. In the midst of the week he did this. He caused the sacrifice and the oblation to cease. Matthew 27 and verse 50. Go ahead and read it.
Jesus, when he had cried again with a loud voice, yielded up the ghost.
He died. This is when he got cut off. We know it's in the midst of that week because all this evidence point to him only ministering after he got anointed for 3.5 years. So we know it's in the midst of the week. So it said when he died, he yielded up the ghost. And what happened? 51.
And behold, the veil of the temple was rent in twain from the top to the bottom. And the earth did quake, and the rocks rent.
Oh, the veil of the temple. Remember, he said himself he was going to destroy this temple, raise up in 3 days, talking about his body. But the literal temple that they was crying over, he said the veil of the temple ripped in twain from top to the bottom, and the earth did quake, and the rocks did rent. That signified no more animal sacrifice, because that's where they did the sacrifices at the veil. And inside the veil, they sprinkle blood once a year. When the veil ripped, that's a message for everybody. You don't need this no more. The real offering has been made. He calls the sacrifice and the oblation to see. When? In the middle of the week. He still got another half a week though, don't he? And he got to do it. Let's go to Romans 15. Because we're going to get the other part of that 27th verse that they mess up. Romans 15, we're going to let the Bible explain it to us. Because again, they say that that's the Antichrist making a covenant with the Jewish people. But make and confirm is different. That was talking about somebody confirming something that's already been established. And that's what Jesus was here to do when he came. And that's what he's going to come back again the second time to do. That's why it's always based on everything go back to what he did, what he started with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But now Romans 15 and one verse, Romans 15, one verse, verse 8, 15 and 8. Go ahead.
Now I say that Jesus Christ was a minister of the circumcision.
Oh, he was a minister of the circumcision, but we know he only ministered 3.5 years, a half a week so far. He got another half. He got a week to do it. So he got another half, but he was a minister of Israel, not a minister of Italy, not a minister of China, not a minister of Arabia. Circumcision means Israel. Israel the ones got circumcised. He was a minister of the circumcision for what?
For the truth of God.
For the truth of God. He was dealing with truth. What else?
To confirm the promises made unto the Father.
Oh, to confirm something, right? He is confirming the promises made unto the Father. He was here to confirm something. See, the Lord made covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and when they kept it, it became an all-out promise. When they did their part, it became an all-out promise. So Jesus came to make good on that. But he didn't finish yet, because the people not back yet, right? He couldn't even answer Peter and them questions and tell them, yeah, I'm getting ready to do it now, right? Peter and them asked him, will you restore it at this time? See, that would confirm what the Lord promised Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. But he couldn't answer it. He told them it ain't for you to know, because he knew he wasn't getting ready to do it. So we know he got that other half a week to do it, though. Go to Romans 11. See, but this lets you know how important Israel is, and you can't get away from them. You can't do away with Israel. All this is too important. This is what Jesus is about. We just read he was a minister of the circumcision to confirm the promises. Now you might say, well, he said he going to confirm the covenant. Well, that's what that is. We're going to see. We're going to get back to the covenant. (11:1). Romans 11:1. Go ahead.
I say then, have God cast away his people?
This is what a lot of people need to read, what Paul's saying here, because they think Israel don't matter and we just now all Christians. Look, all the first people that followed Jesus, who Jesus was dealing with, they was all Israelites. Other nations didn't come aboard till later. They was all Israelites. And we just read Jesus was about confirming the promises to the forefathers. That's what he was about. He hadn't done away with Israel. Neither did Paul think so. He said, if God cast away his people, what's the answer?
God forbid.
God forbid. Why?
For I also am an Israelite.
Oh, Paul, an Israelite, huh? Go ahead.
Of the seed of Abraham, of the tribe of Benjamin.
He knew what tribe he was from. He wasn't from the tribe of Judah, but he was from the tribe of Benjamin. Verse 2.
God have not cast away his people, which he foreknew.
He haven't done it. He haven't cast away his. Though he punishing us, though he haven't restored it yet, he got to eventually restore it. Else he lied to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. He lied to Daniel if he don't restore Israel. He even led Peter and them astray if he don't restore Israel, because he let it be known that it's going to happen. It just wasn't for them to know the time, right? So we know God can't lie, right? So it's just a matter of time. Skip down to verse 25, because he said he have not cast away his people which he foreknew. We'll skip the rest of that second verse. Verse 25, in the end, even though we messed up now, what's going to happen? 25, go ahead.
For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceit, that blindness in part is happening to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in.
Now he telling these Romans, these Gentiles, that don't get big-headed and think you run something, and God ain't done away with his people like the Roman Catholic Church and took over the church, say they the priests now. They making cardinals and bishops. Look, Israel is still God's priest. That's why don't nobody know about the word of God now. That's why we reading out the Bible. Since the Romans been in charge all these years, that's why we reading out the Bible when people think we crazy. And we reading it right out the Bible. But that's because you've been listening to the wrong people. That's why you going somewhere on December 25th. But he said, I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part. See, Israel messed up in part, but not totally. It's happened to Israel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. If we read Luke 21, verse 24, Jesus said that they're going to be led away captive into all nations, and Jerusalem going to be trodden down of the Gentiles, which is what's going on now, until the times of the Gentiles be fulfilled. Then it's going to be fixed. Once the time of the Gentiles is up, it's going to be fixed. He's going to take his other half a week, and that's all it's going to take, 3.5 years. It ain't going to take 40 years in the wilderness like before. It's only going to take 3.5 years. He's going to make short order work of this. Until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. It's going to be fixed. Verse 26.
And so all Israel shall be saved.
Oh, in the end, all Israel going to be saved. The ones who don't want to take salvation, they'll be dead, so they won't be counted no more. And everybody left will be saved. So all Israel shall be saved. Go ahead.
As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
There shall come out of Zion the deliverer. Who is the deliverer? That's Jesus, right? That's the Messiah. See, Paul talking about him coming again, isn't he? And coming again to do what? Just any old thing? Rapture us to heaven? No. Coming again to fulfill his other half a week and honor Daniel's prayer and restore this people to their homeland. Fixed all of this that's been going on. Answer Peter and them questions and say, yeah, it's time for me to restore it now. That's what Paul talking about, right? All Israel shall be saved. That is written, there shall come out of Zion. The deliverer got to do it, though. And he quoting Isaiah when he giving this scripture. And shall do what? Turn away what?
And shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob.
Shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. Go ahead, verse 27.
For this is my covenant unto them, when I shall take away their sins.
See, this is my covenant unto them. Again, we read that somebody had to confirm the covenant. He shall confirm the covenant for 1 week, right? Only problem with him confirming the covenant for 1 week, he got cut off in the middle of the week. He didn't finish. We saw the Messiah had to be cut off. You can't get no clearer than that, right? And we saw he got cut off for that. That was a part of him confirming the covenant. He had to be cut off. He had to die for the sins of the people. He had to handle it spiritually. But now, go to Ezekiel 20 and one more after this. Ezekiel 20. That's why when Jesus talk about Matthew 24, verse 29, he talk about coming back. That's the first thing he say. He said, after great tribulation, the sun and the moon going to get dark. He going to shake up the sky. The stars going to be shaking and falling. And then he said he's going to send his angel with a great sound of a trumpet, and they will gather together his elect. That's the first thing on Jesus' agenda, to get Israel back and restore them. And he going to get them alone. See, he gets you alone where he can deal with you. He going to get them in the wilderness, and he going to preach to them for 3.5 years, kill up all the rebels that don't want to be bothered, and then it'll be over with. Ezekiel 20 and verse 33. Go ahead.
As I live, saith the Lord God, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you.
He said, I'm going to rule over you. He talking to us because we think we prefer other people ruling over us. We like this head whooping we getting out. Obviously we do, because we still won't turn back to him. That's why we still got church on Sunday. That's why we still doing away with his law. We like getting a head whooping. See, we like our current masters. But he said, look, I don't care what you want. as I live, God is talking, say, I'm going to rule over you in the end. I'm just going to let them keep busting your head till the time comes. And I'm going to rule over you with a mighty hand, a stretched out arm, and fury poured out. I'm going to rule over you. That's good news, though. He ain't going to leave us in this captivity. See, Daniel died in captivity. He never went back home. He didn't get to see the answer to his prayer yet, but he going to see it eventually, because this is going to happen. 34.
And I will bring you out from the people.
He said, I'm going to bring you out from the people.
And will gather you out of the country wherein ye are scattered, with the mighty hand, and with the stretched out arm, and with fury poured out.
See, that's what Jesus said. You're going to be led away captive into all nations. But we already got prophecy here telling you was coming back home from them nations. He's going to do it. He's going to do it with his mighty hand. It's going to be a powerful show of force when he bring Israel back. You're going to know it's only God doing that. It ain't going to be the United Nations helping nobody. See, we ain't going to get no help from nobody. If the Lord don't come deliver Israel as a people, we will live in squalor the rest of our days. But thank God he already got it planned. Verse 35.
And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face.
See, he's taking us back to the wilderness. It's going to be nothing comparable to this deliverance except when he brought Israel out of ancient Egypt. With a mighty hand. He poured out fury on Pharaoh, didn't he? Well, he's going to do that to the whole world. Somebody better wake up. He said, I will bring you into the wilderness of the people. Notice that you end up back in the wilderness. This is not the old time when they went to the wilderness. This is future, when the Messiah come back and complete his week. Into the wilderness of the people. And when he gets you there, what he going to do?
Will plead with you face to face.
And there will I plead with you face to face. The Lord said, I'm going to be here. Like what?
Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you, saith the Lord God.
Oh, just like it happened back then, right? The Lord was on the scene with Israel. But the Messiah going to do it perfect. He ain't going to even use nobody like Moses, like he did then. He was dealing with them, but he let Moses be in the faith. But now he going to do it in person himself. But it's going to be nothing comparable to it except what he did in ancient Egypt. What else he going to do? 37.
And I will cause you to pass under the rod.
I'm going to humble you under the rod. Go ahead.
And I will bring you into the bond of the covenant.
Oh, he's bringing you into the bond of the covenant. This is the new covenant now. Because we broke the old covenant, but since he is confirming the covenant, he had to come up with a new one. He going to let it still happen like he told Abraham, like he told the father. That's what Daniel 9:27 said. He shall confirm the covenant made unto the fathers. He shall confirm the covenant for 1 week. Well, Romans 15 told us Jesus was confirming the promises made unto the Father. That's him doing it. Here you go right here. That's why he said, I will bring you into what? The bond of the covenant. You're going to be under the covenant from now on forever. Go ahead, 38.
And I will purge out from among you the rebels.
Oh, he's going to get rid of the rebels. Go ahead.
And them that transgress against me.
Uh-huh.
I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel, and ye shall know that I am the Lord.
See, they're going to leave America, but they're going to die in the desert. That's going to be a shame. You done made it that far, and still going to have a hard enough head. That's why we are hard-headed people. Go ahead.
As for you, O house of Israel, thus saith the Lord God.
He's telling you in the meantime, I'm going to do what I just said I'm going to do in the end. But in the meantime, O house of Israel, what he telling us? Go ahead.
Go ye, serve ye, every one his idols.
He said, go ahead. You're going to get out of my land. Go serve your idols however you want to do it. Go ahead.
And hereafter also, if ye will not hearken unto me, but pollute ye my holy name no more with your gifts and with your idols.
See, we're not polluting his holy name no more really with our gifts and our idols, because we don't even know we Israel. We don't even talk about the God of Israel really. We not polluting his holy name. We don't even know who we only thing polluted around a name for us is Negro, African American. We gave them bad names now. We didn't mess them names up. Don't nobody else want them names, do they? Don't nobody else want to be called the names we call. So, but we ain't polluting his name no more. We ain't known by his name no more. But go ahead, verse 40.
For in my holy mountain, in the mountain of the height of Israel, saith the Lord God, there shall all the house of Israel, all of them in the land, serve me. There will I accept them, and there will I require your offerings and the first fruits of your oblations with all your holy things.
See, he going to restore all things, and he going to even accept oblations again in the land of Israel. One more place, Jeremiah 31. Jeremiah 31 and verse 1. Now, he said he going to finalize this in the wilderness. This Jesus when he come back. That's why he talk about in Revelation, making sure he sealed 144,000 of Israel. You think that's just an accident in Revelation 7? He going to make sure he got some Israelites left that don't get killed. Jeremiah 31. And he going to take a lot of Israel to the wilderness before tribulation anyway. Some going to be in the wilderness already. But he even going to save them out of the other ones out of tribulation. But Jeremiah 31, and we're going to pick it up at 1. Go ahead.
At the same time, saith the Lord, will I be the God of all the families of Israel.
See, that's what he going to do in the end. He going to be the God of all the families of Israel. Go ahead.
And they shall be my people. Thus saith the Lord, the people which were left of the sword found grace in the wilderness, even Israel, when I went to cause him to rest.
See, he telling you about what we just read in Ezekiel. The people that got left of the sword, that don't get killed, that make it to the wilderness, and who he don't kill in the wilderness, because he said he going to purge out the rebels, right? But all the people that's left that want to do God's will, they going to find grace. Where? In the wilderness. Just like Israel came out of Egypt, went to the wilderness, and got under the first covenant, where Jesus is going to, in person, bring us under the last covenant. In the wilderness, even Israel, when I went to cause him to rest. Verse 3.
The Lord have appeared of old unto me,
saying what?
Yea, I have loved thee with the everlasting love. Therefore with loving kindness have I drawn thee. Again I will build thee, and thou shalt be built.
See, he going to build it. He got to build it again now, because Jesus said it was going to get torn down again, and that's what happened, right? And the little building they're going to do over there now don't mean nothing. He going to have that torn down. But go ahead.
O Virgin of Israel, thou shalt again be adorned with thy tabrets, and shall go forth in the dances of them that make merry. Thou shalt yet plant vines upon the mountains of Samaria. The planters shall plant, and shall eat them as common things. But there shall be a day that the watchmen upon the Mount Ephraim shall cry, Arise ye, and let us go up to Zion unto the Lord our God. For thus saith the Lord, Sing with gladness, for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. Publish ye, praise ye, and say, O Lord, save thy people, the remnant of Israel.
See, this is what everybody should be looking for, because this is going to be a blessing for everybody. All nations are going to be blessed that know and do God's will. So he said, sing with gladness for Jacob. He's telling other people to do this. Especially when you see this, you ain't going to be able to do nothing but sing, if you got any sense. Sing with gladness for Jacob, and shout among the chief of the nations. Publish ye and praise ye, and say, O Lord, save thy people, the remnant of Israel. What are he going to do? Verse 8.
Behold, I will bring them from the north country, and gather them from the coast of the earth.
See, we all over now. Go ahead.
And with them the blind and the lame, the woman with child, and her that travaileth with child together. A great company shall return thither.
A great company going to return. Go ahead.
They shall come with weeping, and with supplications will I lead them. I will cause them to walk by the rivers of waters in a straight way, wherein they shall not stumble. For I am a father to Israel, and Ephraim is my firstborn.
Keep going.
Hear the word of the Lord, O ye nations, and declare it in the isles afar off, and say.
He say what? Go ahead.
He that scattered Israel will gather him, and keep him as a shepherd doeth his flock.
See, the Lord said, I'm going to do this. He that scattereth Israel will gather him, and keep him as a shepherd doeth his flock. We're almost done. Verse 11.
For the Lord have redeemed Jacob, and ransomed him from the hand of him that was stronger than he.
See, he talking like it's done already, because he know it's done. He done redeemed Jacob, though Jacob right now is in captivity. But that's why Paul had to say in Romans 11, he have not cast away Israel like people think. He said the deliverer going to come out of Zion, basically letting you know Jesus got to come back again, and he going to fix Israel permanently, like Daniel wanted to know when it was going to happen. Go ahead, verse 12.
Therefore they shall come and sing in the height of Zion, and shall flow together to the goodness of the Lord, for wheat and for wine, and for oil, and for the young of the flock, and of the herds.
Uh-huh.
And their souls shall be as a watered garden, and they shall not sorrow any more at all.
See, this will be, the 70 weeks will be up when this happens. Once he complete that last half a week, it'll be up, and you'll be looking at this right here. Skip down to verse 31, and we're going to wrap it up with these last few verses. See, this is why he said he going to confirm the covenant with many for 1 week. He did it for 3.5 years, a half a week, had many people following him from among Israel, but then they crucified him, and he going to come back and he going to complete it for that other half a week, which will complete his week. Verse 31, and go ahead.
Behold, the day is come, saith the Lord, that I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel.
See, this is how he confirmed the covenant with Abraham. He had to come up with a way to confirm the covenant with Abraham. How? He had to make a new covenant because they broke the covenant that he made with Israel when they came out of Egypt. So he had to make a new covenant with them to keep intact his covenant or promise with Abraham, to make that exist. He couldn't just let it go. Even though Israel messed up, he couldn't just let it go because he can't lie to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. See, this is what this is all about. He got to do it. So that's why he even coming with a new covenant with who?
Israel.
Didn't say with the Gentile. People think the new covenant with anybody. They done done away with Israel. They think the new covenant, oh, you're just anybody, you know, God don't care who Israel is. Look, he do care. The new covenant is with Israel. So says this in Jeremiah 31, and so says the New Testament in Hebrews 8. Say the same thing. Matter of fact, Hebrews 8 don't do nothing but quote this. Behold, the days come, said the Lord, I will make a new covenant with the house of Israel, and who else?
And with the house of Judah.
Only them. Everybody else got to be a part of this. This is how God operates. Go ahead, 32.
Not according to the covenant that I made with their fathers in the day that I took them by the hand to bring them out of the land of Egypt.
Not according to the old covenant, because we broke it, right? Go ahead.
Which my covenant they break, although I was a husband unto them, saith the Lord.
He said, I did my part, y'all broke it. So, but I'm still going to fix it, don't worry, because he's the fixer. He's the one that was shown to Daniel in Daniel 9 that had to fix this. That's why it didn't get fixed until the Messiah come into play. Took 69 weeks to get to him. He got a week. He got cut off in the midst of the week. He got a half a week left when he come back. He is going to fix this for Israel. You can't do away with Israel and say you believe in Jesus. You believe a lie. Go ahead.
But this shall be the covenant that I will make with the house of Israel after those days, saith the Lord. I will put my law in their inward part.
The law not done away with under the new covenant anyway, is it? That's what they tell you, but it's not. He putting the law in your mind, in your heart. That's the inward part. Go ahead.
And write it in their heart. And will be their God, and they shall be my people.
Go ahead.
And they shall teach no more every man his neighbor, and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord.
Well, this time can't be here because we trying to teach everybody to know the Lord right now, right? That's what we on the internet right now. That's why people on the phone, we trying to teach them to know the Lord. See, when the Lord come back and fix this up, he gonna been and taught us for 3.5 years. Everybody left gonna know him. If you don't know him by then, you're gonna be dead. Everybody left gonna know him. That's after he finished his job. It's gonna be goodness all over the earth. His kingdom would have came. So you ain't gonna have to teach everybody, his neighbor and every man his brother, saying, know the Lord. Why?
For they shall all know me.
They gonna all know. Do all know the Lord now? No. We ain't got here yet then, have we? Go ahead.
From the least of them unto the greatest of them, saith the Lord. For I will forgive their iniquity, and will remember their sin no more.
Go ahead.
Thus saith the Lord, which giveth the sun for a light by day, and the ordinances of the moon and of the stars for a light by night.
Go ahead.
Which divideth the sea when the waves thereof roar. The Lord of hosts is his name.
See, I'm finna talk. I'm finna talk to you. I'm finna tell you one thing right quick. And I want you to know I'm the one talking. I'm God. The same one that gave the sun for a light and the moon and the stars. And I divide the sea. When you hear the waves roar, that's me. The Lord of hosts is my name. Let me tell you something. Verse 36.
If those ordinances depart from before me, saith the Lord, then the seed of Israel also shall cease from being a nation before me forever.
So much for Israel being done away with. This is what this whole lesson is showing you. That's what the Lord was showing Daniel. It's going to get fixed, Daniel. It's a long time drawn out, though. 70 weeks. But it's going to get fixed, Daniel. I haven't done away with I haven't forgot the promise. It's going to get fixed. I got to bring the Messiah in. He going to wrap it up in a week. That's what he's showing you. And people think Israel done away with. He telling you here, if you can get rid of the sun and the moon, if it don't do its job like it do every day, all day, if you can change that, then maybe you can say I done away with Israel. If the sun and the moon do it, and the stars and the ordinance of heaven do their thing every day the same way, day in and day out, week in and week out, month in and month out, year in and year out, you can't change my covenant with Israel. That's what he's saying. 36, if those ordinances, he's talking about the sun and the moon and stuff, depart from before me, said the Lord, then the seed of Israel shall also cease from being a nation before me forever. It can't happen. Thank God for this, because we coming back. We on our way back. 37.
Thus saith the Lord, if heaven above can be measured.
Matter of fact, I'm going to give you another analogy. He said, if you could measure heaven above, put a ruler on the sky and tell me what you come up with. Go ahead.
And the foundations of the earth searched out beneath.
Or just search out the ground, the foundation. Tell me how that worked. Go ahead.
I will also cast off all the seed of Israel for all that they have done, saith the Lord.
See, man's smart, but he ain't that smart. He ain't putting no rule on the sky, have he?
No.
Or he can't search out the measurements of the foundation of the earth. So then he can't cast off Israel forever, even though we done wicked. 38.
Behold, the day is come, saith the Lord, that the city shall be built to the Lord from the tower of Hananel unto the gate of the corner.
Oh, now we still talking about being built. That's what Daniel wanted to know, when it's going to be restored. We got a little restoration in there with Ezra and Nehemiah, but that didn't last, right? The Messiah came and told us that was going to get destroyed. One stone upon another wouldn't be left, right? But now here's the final restoration, the permanent restoration, when the Messiah complete his week. He said, the days come, said the Lord, the city shall be built. It's going to be built again, huh? This is the permanent building. To the Lord, from the tower of Haniel unto the gate of the corner. Go ahead, 39.
And the measuring line shall yet go forth over against it upon the hill Gareb, and shall compass about to go at. And the whole valley of the dead bodies, and of the ashes, and all the fields unto the brook of Kidron, unto the corner of the horse gate toward the east, shall be holy unto the Lord.
Oh, it's going to be holy unto the Lord. Go ahead.
It shall not be plucked up, nor overthrown, nor thrown down anymore forever.
See, when Jesus completed his mission, Daniel won't have to worry about it no more. Peter and them won't have to worry about it no more, because it'll be built up permanently and it won't be thrown down anymore. For how long? Forever. I hope you got some understanding in Jesus' name.